Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Malice Experience. I am Mr. Malice. And of course, below me, where he always likes to be, Mystic Salon, and the big Santa face over to the left of me is Maeve. We got both of the co-hosts with us on one night. What do you know? Ave Satanas, everyone. Sol Invictus. Happy holidays. Merry fucking Christmas if you're into that shit, I guess. You know. But here we are.
A lot of shit. Isn't one of them.
Right. Here we are together on the holidays. The special Christmas edition of the Malice Experience. I hope you're all doing wonderful this evening. I hope you have had a wonderful holiday weekend thus far, that you have received the things that you want to receive spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically, whatever the fuck it may be. I hope that you've received it. Thank you for being here. Thank you for spending time with us. And we are going to get into it. So as always, as per usual, we are going to get into our weekly tarot read. And I think for effect, if Mystic is willing, Mystic, could you give us an opening to the year reading? This is our last show of the year. The last show of 2021, everyone. The final episode of 2021. This is it. This is our last show. Unless, of course, Maeve and I fucking work something out, and then maybe next week. But, you know, that's all up in the air. So, what do you think, Mystic Salon?
I'm looking around to see if I have a deck close to me that would fit to that purpose. Oh,
I mean, you got 180 decks, so there's got to be something.
180. Last time we talked, it must have been a while. I've got 207 at the moment.
Jesus Christ.
I have 4 or 5.
You know what? I'm just going to use my main deck because it would not make sense to not. Where is my main deck?
So that is what we're going to be talking about at the beginning of tonight. We're going to be getting into the idea of just kind of like doing a reading for the beginning of the year, kind of getting that vibe for what we're going into for the beginning of this year, the changes that may or may not be happening with us. You know, we're going to get into that. We're going to get into the tarot deck of the week, as always. And
buckle your seatbelt, y'all.
And then we're going to be getting into our main topic, which is how everything was stolen from us by the Christians. They stole everything because they haven't had an original thought since Catholicism. And that was a long fucking time ago. Like a real long time. We're talking like over 2,000 years ago. So, yeah, we're gonna be talking about that. We're gonna be talking about the parallels because everybody talks about pagan culture, like how things are stolen from pagan culture. But what about the left-hand path? What about Satanism? What about the things that were stolen and taken from Satanism that are currently used in modern Christianity today? There are things, and we will discuss them. But we're going to turn the table over. Behemoth X, happy holidays, my friend.
Hola.
I hope you are well. Ave Satanas. So, Mystic, take the floor, my friend.
I'm not taking the floor because that would mean I'm passed out. And I'm not there yet. So we're going to take the chair.
Another drink for you, sir.
We shall take the chair. Here, I just got a homemade hot toddy passed to me. So
You need
this
a
is going
second.
to be a long night.
Already.
This week is tarot is actually an oracle.
Ooh, nice. Finally, an oracle deck.
The Rumi oracle. I am not versed in this particular oracle specifically, but it is by somebody who I have multiple decks from that is really nice, and that is Elena Fairchild. Many people have probably heard of her. But the reason I kind of pulled this deck for tonight is really because it is very representative of an amalgam of Christianity and other religions, and I'm pointing that one out first because that is how this whole deck actually came about. So, again, if anybody wants to see this when you actually get through it, it's the Elena Fairchild Rumi Oracle. Jesus loves me, this I know. Sorry, just kidding. So these are large cards, and they are like
God damn.
freaking wood, man. I am telling you. There are 44 cards. I'm serious. Like this, they're tough as nails, and they are huge. Hard to shuffle. That did more very well, did it? Sorry, there was a mic technicality there.
Yeah, I heard that.
We good. All good, fam. All right. So back to the deck. Again, hard to shuffle. It's huge, and it has two things that I hate about any kind of deck, and that is borders, small beans, and words on the card. I really prefer maybe the name of the card I'm okay with, or the suit I'm okay with, but I prefer the imagery without words, because no matter how hard you try, when you look at a card, your eyes are going to go to the words because that's what's different on the face of the card, right? They are completely reversible, although this is not a deck I would say you would necessarily read reversible. And the imagery is very different than what I'm used to. But I'm okay with the most of the verbiage on these cards. So I want to show you the very first card in the deck, and it's called Beyond Death, Life.
Okay.
And what you're going to see through this deck of Oracle cards is that it is very reminiscent of a self-help type deck. It is very directional, and I think that is the kind of read you want going into a new year.
Mm-hmm.
So even though this is not my general style of imagery, I'm not a huge fan of it, you can still kind of understand what we're talking about when you see the cards.
I mean, it's very
Passion,
artistic. It's very
it is.
artistic, but I don't know if it's very representative.
Well, I mean, you can look at it as representative, or you can look at it as the general interpretation of what the expectation is of the artist, which, you know, as anybody knows, an artist's interpretation is the artist, which is often different than the recipient of that art.
Right.
I feel like I'm the only person in the world that thinks the Mona Lisa is the ugliest thing I've ever seen. Like, who would want that in their room? Like, that's just disgust. Anyway, personal opinion. But some of the cards, like I would not read this card with what the words are. Okay. The words on this card is "I surge on the uprising wave of love." Okay, that's not what I see in this card when I
see going into the void.
I see more almost, kind of a challenge of you're underneath the waves, everything is pulling against you, but you're going in anyway. So maybe the same thing, kind of, right?
Yeah.
But to me, it's a challenge.
Yeah, exactly.
Some of these are just, some of them are absolutely beautiful. Sacred Convergence, I don't get that out of there. Maybe Rorschach testing. Get it back. Do you see? See, I see two women back to back that are, sitting in a blood moon, but, that's just me. Cards are beautiful. There's no question about that. It's a great deck. This is a deck that I may actually read the book.
Okay.
I probably won't read the meaning of the cards, but I will probably read the introduction, which I have not done yet. I've had this deck for quite a while because I wanted some more Oracle decks because, I need more decks.
Yeah, of course you do.
But it really goes into like the true spiritual journey of, relating to the faces of the divine, as the artist calls it. I like that there's no rules for the deck. The whole 9 yards. It's just a very well put together deck. If you're looking for something where you can do a card a day, or you want to have a Oracle deck where you can kind of just shuffle and say, okay, what do I need to know today or pay attention today? Okay, Sacred Union. Okay, I need to pay attention to the things that are in my life that could raise me up to a higher level. That's what you would do with this deck to me. I would not be able to do a reading with this deck at this point until I spend a lot more time with it. But it's still pretty deck. It's nice. And Elena Fairchild has a couple of things. She has a couple books that are really nice, and she got a couple other decks. that are quite interesting. As a matter of fact, I wonder. I'm gonna check something real quick because, like the Virgo I am, all of my decks are searchable by artist on my
Really?
spreadsheet. Don't
Oh,
judge
yeah,
me.
that's right. You got a spreadsheet for him.
Don't judge. Don't judge.
We got 4 decks. That's about it.
The other deck that I have of hers that I have not reviewed is called Sacred Rebels Oracle, so I'll have to look that one up and find it. But that is deck number 153. But I will look that up and find it because at some point, maybe tonight, maybe not tonight. But that's we'll do that. Oh God, a lot of deck. Close.
It's a lot of dicks. Wait, what?
I am obsessed with decks.
Yeah, I know you're obsessed with dicks.
All kinds. I'm non-discriminatory.
Exactly.
However,
Maeve is just holding back. He's just like, I hear nothing.
I'm hearing everything.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
All right.
Nope. All right.
This is a Christmas Christmas
enjoy
stream for
this.
kids.
Yeah.
I like decks. Big decks, little decks, small decks. This is a mini deck. Like mini decks
Bigger
too.
the
Don't
deck,
care.
the better.
So bigger implies size. To me, it would be the more decks, the better, or the more cards per deck, better, right? So I
It's
want
not-
quantity over quality.
Look, it's not how many decks you have, but it's how you use them.
I mean, that is very true, actually.
Right.
However, that being said, if I'm gonna
Oracle
be doing-
dicks.
They're very spiritual.
Look, I have about 8 or 9 decks with an E that are not suitable for stream, and I would anybody who wants to see, and let me tell you, they are very much tarot decks and oracle decks, but with an I.
They're very terrical decks.
And let me tell you, those decks work too. Like they are on freaking point. I actually, and this is gonna sound weird, but I did a reading for my cousin who's having some trouble. Great dude. No, blah blah blah. But I used a I forgot what it's called. Now I'm gonna mess it up. The Blood and Bone Oracle, I think is what it's called, and it is not appropriate. I'll have to look it up, but it's by Saint Jinx if anybody wants to look it up.
Saint Jinx.
Saint Jinx.
Saint Jinx. Okay.
The artistry is amazing, but if you don't like to see big decks, then you don't want to pull that deck. Just FYI. But they are very.
Teach their own.
Yeah, the thing is the imagery on them matches the energy of the card that it's trying to pull. So that's what's cool about them. Anyway, all that being said, I have to use my traditional personal deck to do a read of this sort that would be. So this is
right.
Also a special
deck?
time. The one deck that I use for just about everything in the last couple of years. We already have jumpers, and that is the Barbara Moore Steampunk deck.
Oh, nice. I've not seen that, so.
It's a loose interpretation of Rider Waite. It's got a lot of input in it, but it is I don't know. It's the deck that I connected with the most in the last probably 5 years, 6 years. And I use it for every personal read that I do, just about, except for maybe 1 or 2, and I use it for every like read for friends, that kind of stuff.
Well, the one I typically use.
There's a pull, couple extra cards. Oh, me.
Nice. It's very.
You cut out there at the end.
Did I?
Yeah.
This deck. It's tarot.
Oh, I do not have that one. You may have to fix that.
It's not bad. I like it because the artist who did the deck, he's a well-known sort of. He's done a lot of different graphic, but
There's a
Babe,
couple I'd like to
you are
talk about.
horribly cutting out. You are horribly
Am I
cutting
cutting
out.
out a lot?
Yeah.
I must not be talking right into the mic. So this guy does art like this. Not too bad.
Yeah, I like that. I don't know why, but I hate when the borders are like that with the multiple languages on them, and I shouldn't. I'd rather just be Italian or something else, or whatever it is in. I don't know why that bugs me, but that imagery is nice.
And the thing is, I like cards like this, and yes, I'm showing it, but these are the type of decks I like. I gravitate to with flesh sometimes, but I like the art when it comes down to it.
Yeah,
I also I grew up on things like heavy metal, so I love that shit.
My taste in actual used. I'm obviously I like to collect and have decks. Like I like to have them to pull from when I need them, and I pull them from random times. But the
Mm-hmm.
decks that I actually gravitate towards for very specific things, um, are very specific, and usually the imagery is what do you call it? Photographic. Like I don't like decks that are photographic. I've
Mm-hmm.
seen a couple where they'll mix that the graphic novel content with kind of like a picture, like an actual picture of a human face, and those turn me off immediately.
I don't have
When
any of those.
they're terrible. I have a couple, and it's just it's terrible. I do have one or two decks. I think it's the Naked Tarot, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
where it's a lot of flesh, but it's so beautifully done. I don't like the imagery myself, as far as I think they went a little too like contrasty and bright just in the images themselves, but the deck itself with the way they did it was beautiful. I'll have to
Mm-hmm.
find that one.
I have another one way back here. The Monera Tarot. It's another artist that focused primarily or highlighted in the heavy metal magazine 3 years ago or consistently. But I love their art. It's a little different than I think your Rider Waite Tarot because it's fire, wind, earth, and water. Those are the four different instead of pentacles, swords, and staves. It
That's
has
how I
the
read
elements.
anyway.
So it's nice that way.
I love that. I'm going to look that up. I probably have a deck that does something similar to that, but I'll have to find it. Um, because I enjoy that stuff, obviously. Um, Nuella, yes, I always use cards that jump. I call them jumpers. Um,
I think everybody should.
I agree.
You
Now
want
the
to be
thing is,
seen.
yeah, the thing is for me is that to me, reading a jumper depends also on how I actually am doing the read. Because sometimes I pull all my cards first and then flip them. Sometimes I pull one, then I wait, and then I pull one, then I wait, and then I pull one, then I wait. So it's a little bit different.
Like,
On whether or not that card needs to be seen or whether it's trying to clarify something that's in your head. Just a personal thing.
yeah, when I've done readings for myself, and I've spread the cards out, and I've done to the point where I just have my hand over the cards and just sort of feeling the energy along it and choosing one that sort of is trying to get attention. So my hand sort of tingles or whatever the case is, and I'll choose one that does that.
Yeah. There's a spread called the Ocean Spread that actually uses all 78 cards.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a very interesting read to do in a group. I will be honest, I'm actually finding even recently when we did, when we did our cooking stream the last time and the other things that we've done, having multiple people pulling cards throughout a thing has been very eye opening to me. I've learned a lot about tarot that way recently,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So I love the different styles of pulls. Um, I will say that the 5 cards that I pulled looked really cool until I got to the 5th one, but we'll have to talk about it when we get there. So if anybody wants to know, again, I'm using the Barbara Moore Steampunk Tarot. First card, 8 of Pentacles. That focus, there it goes. So the Eight of Pentacles, and what we're doing, or what I'm doing here with this read, is we're talking about a read for the new year. So this is going to be a very generalization of things that are going to transpire over the next year, um, things to maybe pay attention to, or you may look at it as the types of energies you want to bring into the things that you're doing. Um, the Eight of Pentacles, if you, I really need to find a second camera where I can show these up while I'm talking about them. So the Eight of Pentacles, when you look at it and you see the detail of what, and I don't know if you can actually see that. This is an individual. She has tools in her hands, right? You can probably barely see them, and she has a pentacle. She's building what looks kind of like a wall or some type of thing that she's building and putting together. The Eight of Pentacles talks about the physical things that you do, create, make with your hands that become beneficial or active to you that will help you through things. So this is saying take responsibility for the things that you're doing and become a master of the things that you want to do, and stop relying on other people to do those things for you. So that's a really important energy, I think, for 2022, because it's been missing the last couple of years. We've been relying a lot on other people's abilities and other people's things to. Next year, it needs to be yours. You make it. You need the table done. You can't find somebody to do it. Learn how to make it. Put it together. Your car's not working. You don't have enough money to go out and get it. Then you need to learn how to freaking fix it. That's fun, actually. It's therapeutic for me. But it's really talking about mastering your own work over the next year, because if you don't, if you look around, very few people, and this actually, I'm moving into an opinion. Very few people are actually mastering their own work. And I'm a very, very guilty of this. Of what is it? Jack of all trades, master of none. Right. So find what you enjoy, find what you love, find what is your masterwork, and you need to work that masterwork, whether it's a creative outlet, creation, pottery, stained glass, I don't know, whatever it is, but make it. And you need to do it yourself, and you need to work on it. And when you travel through the 10 card, well, it's really 13 actually, but the pip cards of the minor arcana, the number 8 is at the point where you are finishing the project and you're looking back and getting ready to say, and you hit 9, did I do this right? Did I put everything in the right place? Did I measure properly? Did I pay attention to what I was doing, or did I just throw this together? And is it really going to support me for the rest of my life, or the rest of the time that I need it for? Because if not, then you wasted your entire time doing that. So you have to figure those things out first. Do a little bit of planning, but become the master of your own work.
And just to go back to what you said there as far as the quote, the issue that I have with that jack of all trade is a master of none is everyone leaves off the last bit, which is far more important, but oftentimes better than a master of one. So you have a skill set which is broad and diverse, so you can utilize it in many places.
Much so.
Much better than just having one skill set, only relying on that. Which really goes back to the card there, at least in my thinking, that if you are relying on someone else, use your tools to improve your skills and rely less on someone and do more for yourself, rather than waiting for someone to do it for you. Goes still back to that a little.
100%. And just to even piggyback more on that, it's also about being proud of the work that you do too.
Yes.
Right. When you're in the tarot, you're getting, and I look at things very numerologically. So when you're getting towards the end of those pip cards before you get into the court cards, that's the end of the project. That's the end of what you're working on. You're already close to being the master of that thing. Don't give up, but be proud of what you do and make sure that you're actually doing something that's meaningful and purposeful, because we can do a lot of things that are not purposeful. Sometimes we just do things because we enjoy them and there's no real reason for it anyway. I like cutting the grass. Maybe I go do it. But next year, 2022, we the next card is, obviously I'm using my mini deck because I can't find my large deck at the moment. I like mini ones too. The Four of Swords. I wanted to say it before anybody else did. So the Four of Swords, if you're familiar with tarot, the Four of Swords in your traditional sense really reflects on well, it actually looks a lot worse than it is. You can't see the dude at the bottom laying down very well, holding onto that fourth sword. with the 3 swords pointing down at his face or his body, where he could think maybe if he makes a wrong move, one of those swords is going to fall down and kill him. But that's not the point here. The point here is he knows they're there. He is thinking about them there, but he is taking a much needed rest. So how do you master yourself while also making the rest that you need in order to grow or think about something, right? We talked about planning in the first card,
Yep.
right? So your 4 of Swords is telling you about the rest needed. And during that rest period, you need to use that time wisely and plan. So the 4 of Swords, to me, a lot of people will look at a 4 and look at, oh, you know, 4s mean stability. That's not what this is talking about when you're talking about swords. If for me, swords are air. Sometimes people read them as fire, but for me, they're an air-based card. So this is the rest of the mind. This is the rest of the things that come to you or that you think about or that are thoughts in your brain. So let them rest. Doesn't mean don't think about things. Obviously, you still need to do that, but people that are really, really high anxiety would be somebody that really, really could use a 4 of Swords energy in their life, right? Because these are the moments where you have to stop and give the information that you've just learned enough time to sit in your brain so that it can make some sense.
Right.
And that is one thing that we often don't do. 4 of Swords is always going to tell you to take that rest a minute, let it come together. Personal experience, when I'm at work, things come at me extremely fast, and people mistake my silence for not knowing how to handle an action, but it's really me processing multiple particular potential scenarios in my head to find the right one. So I always say, give me a minute, come back to me at the end, and then I can actually process that information because I don't want to rush into an answer. So 4 of Swords energy. Oh, go ahead.
No, so I was always gonna say is I'm very much like that myself. I have to sort of process everything, and when I'm silent, it's not because I have nothing to say, it's because I'm thinking about things.
Mm-hmm. And people mistake that because, and then there is the other side too, right? So sometimes people have to sound it out. And I think that's perfectly okay too, which will go back to something else I said a long time ago, which is, or not said a long time ago. I don't know where that came from. I'm lying to everybody. Malice sent you that video today of the guy that I watched a long time ago where he talks about stay in your lane. But when you need to leave your lane, use your blinker. Let other people know you need to get off the lane. So same energy. We're really talking about that think, that pause, that process. But if you're one that needs to sound it out, but let people know that's what you're doing, or else you might be giving a direction to somebody and they might be running with it. So far, I feel good energy coming up out of the first 2 cards that we have. 8 of Pentacles for your masterwork, 4 of Swords for your rest and give things time to actually do and heal and have some patience. Third card also to me is a wonderful card. This is the Star, and this is one of the most beautiful Star cards I have found in any deck to me.
That looks
Very
great.
nice.
Yeah. And so the Star can be a lot of things. To me, the Star as part of the major arcana, it really means one of 2 things. It either means find a directional waypoint that you can use to measure your direction, or become a waypoint for somebody else to measure their direction. But you can do both. So to me, if we're talking about so far in our tarot, we've had the 8 of Pentacles with Masterwork, we've had 4 of Swords to rest. To me, the Star is talking about you, whoever's listening. This is your opportunity to be able to lead or provide direction to somebody else, or be the North Star that's going to say, okay, you may not know the answer, I may not know the answer, but we know that's north, and we know we need to go west, so let's go west. So the Star is about that direction, or looking at that direction for yourself. So far we've got some good stuff going on. Another card that I absolutely love, 7 of Cups. Hard to see. 7 of Cups. So we're back into water. Excuse me, I have hiccups. Malice. They're contagious. So 7s. I love 7s. And you know why? Because every time you do tarot with a traditional person and somebody's just learning the tarot, oh my God, you got a 7. It's terrible. The strifes of 7s, the 7s of strife. That's what people say for some reason. I don't know.
Really?
I think 7s are a good card.
I did not know that.
Not good, but positive. And yeah. Some people say it's the 6s. Some people say it's the 7s. For me, it's the 5s that always pretend the negative or the bad thing or something that's going to happen. in general, but the Seven of Cups is really a great card for patience and for I don't want to say taking stock because I use that phrase, but it's an emotional. It's also a pause, but it's an emotional pause. Again, if you think about it numerologically, we're going 1 through 10. If you have an emotional situation, you start at the beginning of that situation and you work through it to the end. That's 1 through 10. So at 7, we're getting towards the end. So we're probably nervous. We're probably uncomfortable with what's happening. We're probably not in the best place where we are right now. So in order to get out of that place where you don't feel comfortable, you don't feel like things are going right for you, what do you have to do? You have to stop, take stock of where you are, look back to see, I don't want to do that again, and then make your plan for what you're going to do next. That's
Yeah,
what
I
the
was gonna.
sevens are.
I was gonna say just run, but you know that's
Yeah,
a lot
don't
better.
run. Yeah, well, I mean, if it was a 5 of Cups, I would say probably run. It's time to
And,
take your problems and go. That's a
and
5
this,
of Cups.
and
Right,
this is
right.
after the star, right?
This is after the star, right? So
That
it's
makes sense to
really,
me. That
it
flows.
does. Yeah. And so the idea really for me with this is you can't just, and see, now it's going to sound silly, but you can't just run. Can't do it. Because if you
'Cause
run when the 7 of Cups is in front of you, then you are going to lose out anything that you could have possibly learned up to that point that's been difficult or hard for you.
Right.
This is the point to look at it. You can even assess it, like literally look back at the past year and say, okay, I did that wrong. I did that wrong. I did that right. I
you're
did
you're
that right.
doing that with the star already. That's the
hmm
introspection,
And
and
you've
this is
got to,
more of a
yeah,
honing into things.
it is. It's the soft sandstone to polish it up to go to the next step. Now, this is going to be the funny part though, because this is the next step in the read.
What the fuck is it?
The tower.
Oh, the tower.
Everybody's terrified of the tower.
I
Like-
love the tower.
Let's climb that
Like,
shit.
like
Don't-
everybody in their readings. I keep getting the tower. It's like you need to like find
Duh.
a different
This
interpretation.
entire last has been the tower.
Yes.
What you don't want is the Ten of Swords. That's the one you really don't want in your read most times. So this, to me, really fits for a yearly read. We are all about change, right? So you have let's just go through the very, very super summary. 8 of
Yeah.
Pentacles, be your master. Master your work. 4 of Swords, take a rest, think about it, process it. The Star, become the vision, become the light to be able to lead. And that doesn't mean like a leadership lead. That means like to set a set point so you know your direction of where you're going now. 7 of Cups, don't run from your problems. Look at them, assess them, assign them, and learn from them. And then the Tower says to, how far into this are we? Fucking change it.
Is this the last card?
It is the last card.
This is the truth.
It is. It's time to change it. Let it all fall
It's-
apart.
You've
Move it on.
assessed it, thought about it, you've dissected. Now all you have remaining is the truth.
And here's me. That is beautifully put, by the way. We need to record that. Oh yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
fuck. We
Yeah,
are.
it's all right. Oh fuck, we are. Yeah. Well, yeah.
Here's like the next question, and this is the question. Like for me, this is the question that I'm going to be asking for next year, pretty much for myself when I do reads. Is what is it? Right. So we've talked about the energies. When you do a read for a large time frame, you're looking at what energies to pull in or push out or change or manipulate to make things work for you, right? And so
Mhm.
when we get all the way through this to the tower, it doesn't mean, oh my God, everything is falling apart. It's like, no, we've already done all the things leading up to it. You've done everything right. So take it slow and do it right. The tower becomes the most amazing card in the world because it's where you transform your life.
Can I just say, like, that is a very, very small card.
It is a very small card. I told you I like all sizes.
Yeah.
Anybody who won,
It's how you use them, man.
it is. Not including the multiples that I have. I do have about 215 decks. I have 5 copies of this deck because I have lost or messed up so many I can't not have it. So I have 3 minis and 2 large decks, but they're not opened yet, so I'm not opening a new one. My dog ate the last one.
Always.
It was pretty cool though because she ate them and she kind of spread them all over the house. So we would be finding different cards like every couple of days. So it's like a read from our dog.
So, what was the dog's reading and did it come true?
So mostly it was probably true. Yeah. Yeah.
Hello.
I have it written down. I'll have to find it because we were writing down the cards that she was doing. I know the star was in it. And then I don't have a
I,
Baphomet card.
I believe they want to say something, but I'm not sure. I say
That's cute. Hi, Baffy. I love it. And yes, I do treat my decks like they're alive. I don't treat them in a mystic way, but I do feel like they have their own energy, each one. Even the same copy of a different deck feels different.
they definitely have a personality, and I don't have the vampire deck myself, but there's an older vampire deck. There might be a couple of vampire decks out there right at this point, but the one that I'm thinking about when I bought it for my ex point, she couldn't use it because to her it felt like it was always sucking everything into it. Literally.
I believe it easily.
So she loved the deck, but she can never use it.
No, I am not. I am not doing a reading too. 2 readings, like from 2. No, that would be way too long.
How many glasses of wine have you had?
More than enough. More than enough.
And there you go.
Well, I'm having this hot toddy that Rook made, and it is actually really good.
My glass is empty, so
Whiskey, honey, and lemon. Mini Malice.
Malice says something dramatic all the time.
I was just going to say the same thing. It
We know him well.
was good. That was really good. Yeah, I might want another one. That's really good.
I'd have another one. It's Christmas, man.
It
or
is.
Yule, or whatever you celebrate.
Which is a great segue.
Exactly.
If anybody has ever watched Linus Tech Tips, wonderful show, wonderful place to learn about computers and all things techie, but we need segues like that. But we need sponsors first. So when we get sponsors, we're going to do those segues, and you're still muted if you're trying to talk to us.
I'm not trying to talk to you. Why would I ever want to try to talk to you?
Screw you, I'm going home.
Wait, I am home.
Oh, yeah, me too.
We're all home. So yeah, everybody, you just saw my little one. Talking about segues. So obviously, as the title suggests, we are going to be talking about this evening. We're going to be talking about Christianity, Catholicism, and how traditions within those religious practices, well, are very, very, very uncannily similar to those of pagans and Satanists and the people in the left-hand path. We're going to be talking about that. So one thing I want to kind of throw out there really quick, guys. So a few episodes ago, we were talking about signs, right? And a few episodes ago, I was talking about like signs and like working with fucking, King Paimon and things like that, right?
I saw the sign and it opened up I'm an 80s kid. Go ahead. 90s. 80s and 90s. I like Ace of Base.
So one of the things
I'm playing that in my head. Fuck you.
Exactly. One of the things I like to do,
I love you.
at least once a day. So I like to kind of take my occult tarot, and I like to pull one card from the occult tarot just to see kind of like what it is maybe for that day that I should be doing. So the other day, what I did was I took the deck and I said, okay, so this is pretty much like the most compact version of the Goetia that you're going to find, because it has all 72 demons from the Goetia plus 6 other ones from I don't know where the fuck, in order to make a 78 card tarot deck. So I took it out, I started shuffling it, and my question that I asked was, what entity should I work with? Like, what should I work with as an entity in the coming year and for the foreseeable future? What would be, the logical kind of course for myself? And wouldn't you know, the top card I took out not the second card, not the third card. The first card I took out of this deck when I took it out and I shuffled it was King Paimon himself.
Camel Man.
I believe his voice is being heard.
So, seeing his name on the internet, I can ignore that. Why can I ignore that? Because, well, I watch a lot of occult streamers. So, you know, I'm going to see a lot of occult streamers talking about Paimon. So I'm kind of, meh. Maybe it's a sign. Maybe it's not. But I cannot ignore completely shuffling a deck. And the first card that I get at the top of the deck is King Paimon.
I should roll one and see if I get Paimon too.
Right, asking like the specific question, who should I work with? And talking about not even 2 weeks earlier about like me seeing Paimon all over the place. So, coming into the new year, Paimon is going to be added to the devotion list for quite some time. We're going to see what happens. I just wanted to kind of put that out there. So, when a sign happens, guys, you're going to know what a sign is. You're going to know it, and you need to accept it. Don't try to explain it. Roll with it.
I'm going to challenge that. Because
You fucking would.
But I'm going to challenge it in a very positive way. Yeah. And it has nothing to do with Paimon or anything you just said, for the most part. It has to do with signs. If you're not paying attention and you're not being and putting yourself in a situation, it's very easy to miss the signs and to write them off as if they're nothing. That's what I wanted to say.
Why is it every time you say signs, I just think of the song, I saw a sign.
He already put it out there.
Saw the sign.
Oh my God. Yeah, probably.
The camel, yellow and black. That's a Garth Brooks song, by the way.
What'd you say about the camel?
Yellow and black. He carried the wise men upon his back. I have the Christmas CD for Garth Brooks.
All right,
shoot me.
So let's break this down. We know that Joseph wasn't the father of Jesus, right? We know that. We know Joseph. Like, we read the Bible. Joseph was not the father of Jesus. But in any modern situation, when you have a kid and you know that it's not yours, and 3 dudes show up with gifts, what are you thinking?
I don't know. It was diamonds and incense and perfume. Let me tell you. That's some pretty hefty stuff.
Exactly. Well, whichever one gave diamonds is probably the baby daddy. So there you go.
I don't know though. Some of those incense and spices were freaking.
How about the frankincense?
Mm-hmm.
Spices were worth more than.
I mean,
mm-hmm.
You know, I think everybody's with me when it comes to frankincense. The first thing I think of when I think of frankincense is somebody stuck like a stick underneath Frankenstein's fucking underarm, rubbed it up there and said, incense.
Never thought that. Never thought that with frankincense.
No, I can't say I did.
It is not my favorite scent, though.
No, it is not. By no means.
You think I collect tarot? You should see my collection of resins. I should show that someday.
No, that sounds very illegal. Sounds very illegal.
Dragon's blood. You must have dragon's blood.
I do. I have real dragon's blood, and my favorite, which is Styrax.
All right, so chat, just so we're caught up here, chat. Mystic is talking about resins and actual dragon's blood. Like, I have actual dragon's blood and resins.
Not hashish.
But 2 and 2 together, dude's on drugs and he's hallucinating a little bit.
Yeah. Why not?
I have frankincense by the pound, if that makes any sense.
By the pound, he has it available.
Why would you have frankincense by the pound? Why?
Because we do a lot of the functions at our church, right? So, rephrase. We haven't done anything in 2 years. But we mix a lot of resins and put a lot of things together to use in our grove or in our land at the church. So we like to have a lot of different things to pull from to make it. For example, when we did our Samhain spread, we mixed labdanum, which is a really, really hard to get incense pine that we actually harvested from the local area,
Uh-huh.
and things like that. So we collect and we all share between each other. Like somebody was able to get me cherry tree resin. Why? Because my family originated in a city called Cherry Tree, and so it's really neat to burn that and think like it's just that connection.
I
But
just
that's why we have so much, because it's for a
what,
large group.
what I got out of all of that was that he likes mixing his drugs and spreading something.
What you should get out of it is I'm a Virgo with a hoarding problem, but I have been able to manage it by putting it into boxes. That's what you should have got out of it.
Well, at least now we know he likes boxes.
Always shoving your decks in your box. Yep.
Been there, done that, bought the t-shirt, burned it twice, threw up. No. No.
Oh, Merry
make me
Christmas,
hey, girl, hey,
motherfuckers.
okay?
Merry Christmas, motherfuckers. So one of the things, the biggest thing, what I wanted to talk about, what I kind of wanted to bring up this evening, was, as for the title's sake, so you see that we have Sol Invictus. So Sol Invictus kind of seems to be kind of like the Latin term that's kind of going around for the satanic kind of holiday, right? But I do want to touch base on, all of the stolen traditions, like the ideas and traditions that have been taken from, from paganism and integrated into, pagan. Wow, taken from paganism, integrated into Christianity. My Jesus Christ, man!
I have an idea.
Somebody just shoot me already.
No,
I have an idea.
Wow.
Yes.
So one of the things that I think is important to understand when we talk about a topic like this is what is actually a Yule celebration. What does that mean? Because interestingly, my news feed today on Facebook and my text messages were a mix of Merry Christmas.
Christmas.
This is your show. We're done.
It's Christmas Day,
drink.
people. We're all on that fucking level right now. So
Everyone have another drink. Rounds of everyone.
Merry Christmas, Happy Yule, and then Yule happened 3 days ago. I'm like, Yule is a week long for me. So there's so many different ways to celebrate, right? The three of us, I'm sure, celebrate 3 different ways. We celebrated solstice on the 21st to the 22nd. We celebrated Yule the 21st through the 25th. That's how our little group kind of does it.
Like,
So
I know
I think
people who celebrate Yule, recognize Yule at the end of when the new moon occurs in January, and this is just leading up to it.
I
This is
would love to hear
Yuletide.
more about that.
So would I, and this is someone sort of said that. It's okay. Now I have to look into this a little more myself.
And so in that same realm of things, when we're talking about, and I want to get into the Christian part of it because that's a big part for me. It's but when you hear that you have heard that somebody practices a certain way, and we want to look into it and know more about it, you may not find anything. And what's cool about it is, as a pagan, the small groups of pagans that existed all over the place in times that we don't remember anymore because they were never written down, they celebrated differently. You had the Gallic pagan or Celts, the Gallic Celts. You had the Germanic tribes. You had, all these different groups of people that really celebrated in a different way. And it was specific to probably that local area. Now, of course, there were some longer stretched connections, example, like Wales, Ireland, what is now Ireland anyway, and then the Gauls that were in that area. And so all of these different little tribes were celebrating or doing their festivals a certain way that are going to be different. So now, what bothers me the most is when we look at and say, well, that's not what I read on YouTube, or saw on YouTube, or read on Facebook. That's not how you celebrate Yule. It is, because there's probably 1,000 different ways to actually celebrate it. Now, there are some historical documents and things that we can say, but most of those we have because why? Because Christianity took over and assimilated those pagan practices in so that they could be seen as Christian. That's where we got the documentation from to show it, and it is all Christianized. So we don't really know, except for what those Christian people who wanted to get rid of it said about those practices. And that's where it starts, I think.
And the only thing I wanted to add there, as far as the traditions and passing those on, is our ancestors would have verbally passed on these traditions. Nothing written down.
Well, they had
Yes,
to
maybe
because
some,
and
maybe
anything that
maybe
was written
maybe
down
some
before,
things,
yeah.
not on paper and parchment, but it would have been in the process and the items, the regalia, whatever things that we've used to celebrate. Those have been there and passed on to family members and that sort of thing. But everything else is verbal.
Well,
And when Christianity sort of took over and changed things, when we lost that verbal transfer of knowledge, trying to get back to this point of where we lost, we're not ever going to get back to that same point. We're going to
well,
get
I think
close, but we're never fully.
so.
Go ahead.
Like, if we look at the history of it, like, so actually, Noel actually asks a pretty good question. So, like, how much stuff was actually burned, right? So it depends on what section of history you're looking at, because so if, for example, you look at ancient Egypt, they had an entire library that was almost completely destroyed. You know, with history and science and education and so many things, like the almost the entire library was destroyed by Rome. Beyond that, you go to, you know, Scotland and Wales and Ireland and, you know, all of that, yes, but particularly Ireland, you know, and in the northern part, you deal with St. Patrick, right? And St. Patrick was dubbed a saint because, you know, he killed the opposition. Not because he was actually a wonderful person, but because, you know, he was happy to commit murder for the church.
He was a
And
druid
yeah,
first.
exactly. Yeah, and which is also why he knew where to look for the literature, like our history. Like, so what we have for the history of, you know, occultism and paganism, what we have available to us, we have snippets of what we think are our actual history that was integrated into Christianity, such as like Christmas and Easter and things like that. And that's kind of like our first brush with, you know, the occult is, you know, those holidays. But when you kind of start to kind of move forward, that like that's pretty much all we have, because like the history that actually existed, that was actually documented, that was actually recorded, was destroyed. We never had the opportunity to do what it is that we do today, which is, you know, like kind of like digitize it and create a database and, you know, things like that. Obviously that wasn't like a possibility back then. But then, you know, everything about our, you know, our existence as, you know, a faith, as a spirituality, as a spiritual path is a guessing game, because we hear snippets here and we hear snippets there, and then we try to put this piece together with this piece together, and we have people saying that this is old and that is old and this is the original and that's the original. And this is why it gets so confusing when it comes to buying literature, you know, for, you know, paganism, the occult, and the left-hand path, because at the end of the day, you don't know what you can trust.
Like when it comes down to it, historically, there was people before Egyptian, Mesopotamians, whatever the case is, whatever that culture was. That's lost to time. We will never know, ever. So this could happen today, depending on how we do things. We could lose all our traditions, any semblance of them, and it could be lost unless we preserve it. Try to preserve it. Try to bring back something that may not be exactly what it was, or exactly how it was, but the same meaning is there.
It's the same
Exactly.
idea with reconstruction versus revivalism. You know, when you look at different types of movements that are currently going on that can be considered revivalist movements, you know, are based on hopefully some tradition that is being revived that has documentation and support, or versus reconstructionism, which is when you use what artifacts are available to try to reconstruct what it was. So the real, like you said, Malice and Mate, the only real places we have to get this information from is from what little bit is left and what was documented by those who actually destroyed part of it, plus our own individual practice and meditations with the spirits and however you believe, that
Hmm.
practice that you do with those spirits and with those things, that's where we get the reconstruction from. But the hard part is, what are we trying to reconstruct? And so that's when I run into problems with some paganism. You know, like Wiccan is a reconstructionist movement, It is reconstructed based on how they think things could have or should have been. Druidry is also reconstructionist in most cases. It's reconstructed based on the things that we have found, like the Cauldron of Grundle. I don't know how to say that properly, but I know it exists because I've done the only research I've actually personally done has been on Green Man, like real true research. And you learn a lot about, that you're only reconstructing that point in time. Like, and I think this goes maybe to what you were talking about. Your practice is reconstructing that moment, but what was before that moment? There was something before the Egyptians, right? Like you said, there was something before the Celts. There was something there. We don't know what it is.
And those traditions that were lost to Christianity and you taken, I'm struggling with stolen, that word, but incorporated, to incorporate a people into the fold. That what was practiced prior to Christianity taking their foothold into those areas was probably influenced by other cultures and slowly moved through Europe. So what was practiced there may not have been the original form as it was anyways. So there was no real original religion or faith or belief or whatever, but they all sort of evolved over time based on the culture as it moved through Europe, or in cases Africa.
I feel like there might have been, I don't want to say original, because there's probably, it's almost like there wasn't one place of origin to me, and I could be wrong or not going back far enough, but I don't feel like there's one point of origin. I feel like there's more than one whenever the spirituality became to exist. And I think if those pockets were to have remained separate, they all would have eventually come to a similar conclusion. And all of those conclusions came before Christianity.
Yes.
That
It's
makes
interesting.
sense to anybody.
It's
Okay.
interesting because when we look at Egyptian versus Aztec, even just looking at those two, both pyramids, but they both have similar structures a lot of times as far as associating with aligning it with the stars and whatnot, and the concepts that were in both cultures. These are continents apart, so to me, it's logical that both these cultures drew from something else much bigger than them prior to them that we can't see yet.
Aliens.
Maybe.
I'm
But
not. It's not a joke either, by the way. If anybody's wondering, there is just as easy a potential for us to have been born of the one couple of aliens that made it to this planet from another one that they destroyed, just as much as Adam and Eve existed.
All right, Superman.
Sorry, I'm having trouble counting.
It just made me think of fucking Superman. You know, Kal-El comes in like on that one soul ship.
I'm serious though. Yeah, the pod.
It's
But
possible.
seriously, we don't know.
DNA wise,
No clue.
there's something not of the earth within us for sure.
Yeah, and the fact is, if I'm so sorry, Christianity, and I don't really want to shit on it, but if
I
there
do.
was,
I
if
do.
there was creation, like creationism to me, and maybe creationism is something somewhere, but it's not the way that people say it is. Nobody would have chosen to create something with freaking 2 kidneys, a pancreas, an appendix. Like you don't create that stuff. That's not no. You would have created somebody who could live on oxygen, and that's all they need forever. And there's 100% oxygen there. That's how. If you create something, that's what you create.
Well,
You create
according
things that
to
balance
the
each other
Bible, and
properly.
well, not necessarily the Bible, but according to most Christians and most Catholics, like that's how it was with Adam and Eve until they ate from the fucking, the.
You know what? I
Truth.
find most interesting about that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. But I'm sure you're gonna tell me.
It's gonna you're gonna like it.
All
Sit
right.
down and you're gonna like it. Damn it.
I'm sitting down. Let's go.
I probably should drink water next.
No.
This glass of wine. And this is something we've actually talked about before, and I think when it comes to Christian creationism, obviously God was the one in that story who was the liar.
Wait, did you just say store or story?
story.
Oh, okay.
That
Okay.
is
I was
that. I
going to
mean,
say.
and it is documented in the Bible that he was lying to the creation that he made in his image.
Well, yeah.
And the person who told the truth was
Wait,
supposedly who?
wait,
Who told the truth?
did you read the same book I did?
I did. Who told the truth?
The serpent.
Exactly.
The
The
serpent.
light bringer.
And it's not just one book either. There are tons of sources. But
Well,
regardless,
I
it
definitely
doesn't
agree
even
with that,
matter.
though. I agree
Yeah.
with that idea, though. Like, I think the whole concept that everybody has is completely fucking flipped, which is why, like, and people, for some reason, for the most part, like, don't get me wrong, I'm not bad-mouthing anybody that's in this chat. I'm just expressing my opinion and putting it out there. Most people are too fucking stupid to understand the concept. Like, when you sit there and you talk about, like, hey, let's look at where words come from. Let's talk about demons. Where do demons come from? What does the word demon, where does that come from? Okay, we can trace it back to ancient Greek. Okay, so in ancient Greek, what does demon mean? Oh, it's, demon
Daimona.
is, exactly. Demon is, a guide, essentially, right? An entity kind of added to a person that kind of help them and guide them through their lives. All right, what's an angel? Let's trace that back. What's that? Okay, it's a messenger. Okay, cool. And people, for some fucking reason, can't put the goddamn pieces together. Like, they can't put the fucking pieces together. Like, they can't look at it and say, hey, all right, well, wait a second. If these things mean that, and a demon is a guide that shows you the way, that shows you how to do things correctly to be successful in your life, why is it that in Christianity and Catholicism and, all these things, why is it that they are the epitome and the embodiment of evil?
Because old men created it, and they wanted to control everything.
Well, yeah.
That's the thing.
That's
But
it.
it's control.
That's
It's all
it.
about control.
It's all about control. I chew my nails because Noella, I think, has put something in really, really important. She says it's unpopular, but thinks Christianity, if it's a bad copy of other religion, can still lead people to the entire truth by searching beyond it. 100% absolutely so true, but you have to be willing to question things that you read or are taught.
Okay,
and
well,
actually
here's the
search
thing.
for it
Here's the thing.
yourself.
So here's the thing.
It's true.
So if you start out that point, you start questioning it, then fine. But most people that end up in that point, like with Christianity, Catholicism, whatever the fuck, generally speaking, because of how the religion is constructed, because of how the hierarchy system is constructed inside of the religion, most people don't try to question it. And so
Because it's
therefore you're
marketed.
stuck.
It's marketing. They are the best freaking salespeople that have ever existed. And when they sell it to you as a child. And so it becomes part of your formative Erickson stages of development. You're looking for approval from your parents, right? How do you do that? By doing the things that they want you to do. What do they want you to do? Go to church, do the right thing. You get the right thing. You become ingrained in that, which gives me pause always and again, it makes me pause because I don't see Christianity as a bad thing. If you look at Christianity as a method of living to create and to attain higher access to God, that can be a good thing. And if that's what you use it for, that's great. But we're built in as a child to grow to it. And something I read recently, and I'm going to look for it in a minute when I stop talking, that really talks about that in a kind of a detail that's different, and how most spirituality that is quote unquote successful at getting you to a higher level of being comfortable in the consciousness that you are currently in is attainable because we are searching for how we can better connect to God versus
Okay, well,
Christianity, which is about God connecting to you.
Okay, so first and foremost,
I want to find
so I know that there are going to be people that disagree with me, and I personally don't give a shit because I just never give a shit. So let's just put that out there. Like, if you disagree with me, you can present your disagreement, but I generally just don't fucking care. But anyway, going into the whole Christianity thing of whether or not Christianity is a good thing or a bad thing, I beg to differ. I think Christianity is the bane of fucking society. Like, I do believe that there are probably wholesome and good things that can be learned from the Bible if presented correctly and learned correctly, but the problem is it's not taught correctly. Because at the end of the day, Mystic, it is the Christians, the Catholics, the Protestants, the Baptists, every single one of them that call you a fucking abomination.
For
Every single one of them.
That are loud enough to call me an abomination, there are 10 that support me. That's been my personal experience. So I cannot discount the entire group for one. We are focusing on the negative because that's what we see. That's what we hear. What's loudest. That's what's in the news. That's what makes it. But the people that I know that are Christian, I consider them misguided. I do. Because I think that they've been fed something that's going to control them and allow them to, you know, I also try to understand that this is what they were taught since they were practically 1-year-olds, 2-year-olds. And I'm not speaking for Catholicism either. I have no experience with Catholicism. I'm only speaking from a Southern Baptist, Christian. There are a ton of Christian churches in my area that are open, accepting, free, and allow you to do that. And they are great people. They are good people.
Yeah,
they
but
do not call me an abomination.
That's all after the fact.
It doesn't matter
That's
when it happened.
To me, it does. To me, it does.
It doesn't. If it mattered, then I have no friends. Then I should just go discount every Christian person that's ever walked my path. I can't expect them to walk their path and be a good person if I can't walk mine.
Well, that's the thing. So okay. So let's define here. I'm talking about the organizations, not the individuals. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking because I can back you in saying that knowing individual people that are Christian and Catholic.
I have known about the Catholic organization. I get it, or the Southern Baptist organization. I get it, but you can't say most. To me, it doesn't work for me. Can't say most because that's not most.
Well, then I think you and I have very different experiences.
Like understanding of human behavior. Human behavior is going to present what gives them the most benefit at the time. Even if you're a good person, you're going to make that mistake. We all do. The difference is when you interact with somebody on an individual level and you find out who they are and what they're worth, that's when you decide whether or not that person has value for you in your life. Not their own intrinsic value, right? I have been treated very shittily by the Southern Baptist Church. Very. As an organization. But out of that organization, 30 of the 40 people I spoke with, I still talk to. They're still good people. They still have a positive impact on life.
1 second. There's a question in chat that I want to answer. So Benjamin asks, why are there so many religions? So my personal opinion, why there are so many religions, it's kind of like a layered answer. There's different layers to it, right? But generally speaking, I personally feel, especially if you look at the history of kind of like Christianity as an example, it's a perfect example of why there's so many religions is because somebody set up, the political aspect of how religion is supposed to be run, the rules that are supposed to be followed, and the things that you can and cannot do. And some motherfucker shows up, a couple hundred years later saying, hey, I don't like the fact that I can't do this. Like, why do you think the King James Version of the Holy Bible exists? Because he couldn't get divorced.
Exactly.
That's why that exists. That's why the King James Version of the Holy Bible exists, because he couldn't get divorced. So what happened is he said, oh, you know what? I'm going to do my own shit. So what happens is people come in and they say, okay, this is cool, but I don't like this, and that. But I do like these things. So let's cherry pick shit, and I'm going to make my own goddamn thing. Let's do that. And so for me, that explains why there are so many religions, because everybody wants to be a fucking leader.
That's not a Christian thing, though.
No, I'm not. But I'm using that as I'm using that as the example because as a catalyst and as like a shining example of how that functions. it's more heavily documented than other things. I mean, just look at Gerald Gardner with the revival of fucking witchcraft. Gerald Gardner, what did he want to do? He wanted to get laid. That's what he wanted to do. He that motherfucker, the only thing he wanted to do is do acid and get laid. So what'd he do? Fucking, free love and Wicca, man.
Although I will say Skyclad does change your practice.
Yeah,
personally, opinion.
Didn't Crowley almost do similar things like that? He had a lot of sex, drugs, and
definitely. So I mean, but the thing is if you look at it, like, you've always got somebody that's going to be a little bit more motivated than everybody else, and is going to say, "Hey, I can take this thing, twist it, flip it, manipulate it, and become top dog in this thing for my time period."
And that's the issue with humans getting involved with shit.
It's human behavior, not the religion
pretty much.
That's the problem.
Right?
Exactly. Exactly. I'm not saying it's the religion that's the problem. I'm just saying,
But you're right. The organization is the key factor when it comes to the overarching problems. And I think Benjamin made a comment. Cast out most of your life. Me too. That's what every organized group of Christians I have attempted to be a part of has ruled me out. Even when I was like, you know what, I can be a gay Christian. I can make it work. It's going to work. And it's not even about the witchy part. It's the pagan part of my life, which I have been my entire life. I tried for a while to be a pagan gay person. Or I'm sorry, a Christian gay person. It didn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Because of the organization, because of the larger group and their ideals that they want to push. And I'm telling you, it all comes down to, for me, Christianity. And we have something to learn from Christianity as a whole. The best pyramid scheme and marketing that has ever existed on the planet. If you want to learn how to sell a car to somebody who can't drive, just look at how they sell Christianity to people that can't figure out how to believe.
Oh, look at what they did to the Knights Templar. Like, they came back and they had property and they had their retirement, more or less, I guess. And then they just were excommunicated and just destroyed. Because the church no longer had power, and they had wives. So I'm simplifying it a lot, but it's all about power and gaining of property. At this point, maybe, or then, maybe, I don't know. But my thought just on religion and not necessarily faith, but religion in general, historically, looking back in things like Hammurabi's Code and all that shit, is religion primarily, I think, was a way to teach common person how to behave within their society, what not to do.
Right.
The cow is sacred. You don't eat cow in that area because you're gonna fucking die because you can't maintain it. The pig is sacred, same fucking reason. So things like that have occurred. Good chance, I think, is a good chance that these things happened in religious context to teach and reinforce, don't eat this, it's sacred, because really you could die if you did eat it. But also how do you treat your neighbor, how do you treat your friend, parent, dad. But then again, the human nature comes in and twists it. What more can I do for myself? I'm teaching behave, but now what can I do to benefit me more?
Yep.
There's just my thoughts there on that.
My curiosity has just been piqued.
Put your finger down. Why?
Mark 5. Thanks.
Yes. That's the
Former occultist here, and I respect any search for the truth. Former occultist. Interesting.
Oh,
interesting.
The previous comment was about ancient Christianity, sophistication, and being different and deeper than what we see in the Protestant West. There's great depth and mystical awareness. I am absolutely sure that is true. I believe that.
Something like that.
However, that's not where we are as a world. You know what I mean? That's not the current what's the word, milieu that we evolve in at the moment.
Well, I mean,
Because-
it's also like when you look at like in my understanding, first and foremost, Christianity in and of itself isn't necessarily ancient. I mean, Catholicism kind of reaches further back than that. But you know, my understanding of ancient monotheism, especially within the Christian Catholic rhetoric or the Judeo-Christian idea of things, a lot more people were murdered in the name of God because everybody was afraid that, their God was not going to be relevant if they allowed fucking pagans to continue to live. I mean, I keep repeating this, but, St. Patrick is a fucking saint because he killed, he murdered, he slaughtered men, women, children, the elderly. Anyone who refused to convert were slaughtered brutally. And the church made him a fucking saint. A saint. You look in the actual history of Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa was not such a wonderful lady. If you really look at how she really kind of pushed her ideas. But she is the idealistic idea of kind of like what is saintly, to Christians and Catholics. So the thing is like, I mean, just recently in France, 300,000 children. Let me repeat this. Listen. Let me repeat this. Let this sink in. 300,000 children were found to have been sexually abused and assaulted by 3,000 priests over the course of 50 years. Most of which will never ever see any justice whatsoever because the statute of limitations is up or their abusers are fucking dead. And the worst part about it, is that this was in an orphanage for children that were deaf or blind. There was a priest that was interviewed on his deathbed that laughed about abusing these children and said that it was easy because they couldn't see or hear. I don't mean to be disrespectful. I can respect you as a person, Mark 5. I don't mean to be disrespectful. I can respect you as a person, and I'm glad that you've discovered something that completes you as a person. I really, truly am. But my personal opinion, if that is the idea of what God in Christ is, they can both suck a fucking dick. I don't fucking care. Now, I am open to hearing and listening to your side of things. That is my opinion. That is how I feel. I will always be open to listening. Always. But I'm also going to speak.
It'd be an interesting topic to cover.
So if you're willing to have a conversation, Mark 5, I would be more than willing to have you on.
I know that my difficulty and my rejection of Christianity is truly based upon my own experiences with those things, right? And most of it has nothing to do with being pagan. It has to do with me being LGBT and the way that I was treated within that religious group, right? And how things were used as fodder against me. It's also why I, completely off topic, accept the name. If somebody wishes to ever call me or refer to me as Warlock, I'm fine with it because I am an oath breaker. I was baptized. I chose to be baptized. I broke that oath. Why did I break it? Because I learned more and became more and knew more, right? I made it to the next step in my own personal growth and movement. And when I listen to things and when I go outside and I hear what's going on in the universe, just in the stillness of being outside, with a couple of friends who are sitting in the grove and we're just listening, we're having a fire or doing a Samhain ritual, that feels so natural to me. It feels like the most natural thing that I have ever done in my life. And it reminds me that our connection doesn't matter whether it is Christian, whether it is non-Christian, whether it is pagan, whether, which pretty much is everything else, right? If it's Satanism, if it is Levian or not Levian, or left-hand path or right-hand path or purple path or green path or yellow path. The key is listening and being silent and listening to the things that come up when that silence is there. When there
Mhm.
is no sound and you hear that light ringing in your ears, it's the sound of silence. It sounds cliche, but it is. And that sound of silence builds up in you, and you listen to it, and you're like, what do I need to do to fill that silence? What is that space creating for me? And for me, when I ask myself personally, what creates the space, or what fills the space when I am silent? And that is the trees, the animals, the outside, the air, the people around me who care about doing the right thing when they can. And all of that speaks to me through paganism. And so when we look at paganism as a thing, it really is literally, by definition, everything but Christianity, right? But that's kind of the definition of paganism, right? It's everything but Christianity. And when I
Currently.
align, if I write my 10 things down that I love about being who I am, and the 10 things I hate about being who I am, all of those things fall underneath the guise of paganism. And I can bring myself to be a better person than I was yesterday by looking at each of those things and saying, I could have done this better. I could have done this
Mhm.
better. I did this and I didn't do this today, but that's okay because I'm a freaking human being and I screw shit up. And that's what being an occultist or a pagan, occultist is the wrong term. Sorry, that's more of a research term to me
Mhm.
personally. But being a pagan, that's what it is to me. It is allowance for all of the things that exist despite what I understand and know. And I don't need to know everything. I don't need to know Christ. I don't need to know Dionysus. I don't need to know um, Baphomet. I don't need to know any of these things to know that my little human brain can only process enough information to say, I need to listen. I need to be a part of what's going on around me and be mindful of those things that exist in the same space that I exist. And those things are incompatible with Christianity for me. They don't go together because Christianity dictates what I do, when I do it, how I do it, who I should do it with, and where I should do it. I don't function that way. And I don't think most humans do. And when we look at our topic of what has been stolen through Christianity from pagan prior cultures, what we see is not the Yule tree or Yuletide, right? It's not the death and resurrection of Easter following the solar and lunar paths, right? What we ultimately see is our search for whatever it is that we're looking for is internal. It is a
Well, it's just
part
like
of who we
it,
are.
it kind of comes down to like it's this idea like so if you have this religion, if you have this faith, you have this concept, you have this scripture that you know to be true, that you know that this is the one true path. You know that this is the reality. You know that everything else is false. Then why lie and manipulate your dates to make your path more compatible for people that don't believe in your shit? Why would you sacrifice the reality and the truth of what is the ultimate truth to make it more compatible for pagans? Why would every single holiday you celebrate, you sit there and say, "Oh, well, we can change that date so you can feel like you're celebrating what you want to celebrate, but it's going to be for Christ and not for your gods." Why, if you know that you have the truth on your side, Why would you change and manipulate your dates to go with the solstices and the equinoxes? Why would you go as far as like murdering entire cultures of people if you know that you had the truth on your side? Because if you had the truth on your side, then ultimately it doesn't matter. The truth will prevail. But every single step in the history of Catholicism and Christianity was taken. Every single step was taken to make sure that absolutely nobody had any other option.
Is it possible that there's a step that we don't know about? I agree with you 100% for everything that I know and feel and is in my brain. But is it possible that there's another step that we don't know about prior to all of that? And that to me is what gives in my brain, it gives Mark 5 the pathway there that exists the same way that we have the Gallic Celts, that there was something before them, or the Egyptians, there was something before them. Is there a potential in our theory that there is something before all of that that we don't know about, and that what we have seen is the marketing program that has been put before? Because that's all we have to experience is what we know.
I mean, I'm sorry, like as powerful as of an entity as the church is
that what's in the Vatican's vault?
You
what
know,
it
like
was? And what it should have been?
There's so much shit in that vault.
I don't know anything about it.
Like, there's so much shit. There's so much shit under the Vatican. You know,
there's as much potential as this was created as a fraternal order of the Christians that existed, and they erased all the Christians before them. It could have been something different, right?
I think the whole thing's reversed. I think everything that people think and believe about the Bible and Christianity has been flipped on its head.
I think we've missed the point on many things, and not us on the panel here necessarily, but I mean as far as Christianity is concerned.
Screw you, I'm out.
Kidding. As far as what we've been discussing, to me, and the more we talk about it, the more I'm thinking this is we're debating the surface level control mechanisms that the people in power have been utilizing, and that meaning, that deeper meaning that Mark 5 was referring to, mysticism, is being lost because no one is being taught to look deep, because there's meaning, there's allegory in all of this. This isn't just literal stuff that's being written down. This is all allegory and stories to teach, to awaken people that is not being. It's all being manipulated to control. It's been utilized, and I can agree that probably what Mark Wise just said there, as far as Christianity merged well because they were very similar, or they could utilize different things. Aspects from the local populace and incorporate them into religion to allow them to easily or more easily merge into the fold. But I don't know. Going back to my I don't know. I've got two different thoughts going on in my head right now. Or is that
me too?
Meaning bit and the service level bit, and also that.
I think. Oh God, did I just lose it? Because it was really good.
I'm sorry.
No. It wasn't because of you. I'm just, and it's all coming kind of on that whole same thing with the compatibility and the merging and the peaceful merging of the two. It wasn't peaceful. There's plenty of documentation to show that it wasn't a peaceful merging. So that's kind of me. Some probably did.
I'm not arguing that whatsoever.
Yeah, no, 100%.
But they tried to make it as easy as possible. Mm-hmm. So where this merging wasn't pleasant is when it didn't work as well as they had hoped. So they had to force it.
100%. I think exactly. And an important thing for me really is to think about, you know, when we think about our original topic of what Christianity has pulled from paganism, maybe there is a lot more interlocking pieces. The problem is for us, the three of us, and for everybody else I think around, in my opinion, I could be wrong, and please correct me and speak your mind, right? Of course. is we only have to go on what we know and what we have
Yes.
available to us. And so that makes it really hard to kind of think about it. When I was doing all my deep research, and I'm still doing it, about the Green Man, because that is a very important, very important aspect or archetype for me. The way that it was assimilated into Christianity, into Christian churches, is a big part of that research for me. And I don't think it was assimilated because Christians wanted pagans to group up with them. I think it was assimilated based on what I've learned so far, because they were the same thing. Because the Green Man was God at that time, or in
Yes.
that perspective or understanding. But I don't have that, and I don't think many of us do, or any of us do, have that information from prior to understand where that really came from. And so we have to guess, or we have to conjecture. And unfortunately for human beings, we tend to conjecture it was stolen, or it was taken, or it was rude, or it was wrong, or it was bad, or it was all these negative things. But, and it was, there's a plenty of documentation showing that it was, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's how it was for all of it. And it does give some value to that process.
But there's also the other
thought.
aspect of it. There's also like the other aspect of kind of like the Bible, right? If you look at the Old Testament and the New Testament, right? So, I mean, obviously it's been kind of like changed up a little bit to kind of like make the Old Testament kind of function a little bit better with the New Testament. But if you look at the original scriptures, like the Old Testament, like it's the same story. It's like that's the whole like, you know, fire and brimstone type of God, right? That's the God is like where people, are you God fearing? Like, are you afraid of the wrath of God? Right? You know, and then they realized that at a particular junction that wasn't working anymore. And then the New Testament decided to rear its fucking ugly face. And now God is a benevolent God. You know, but I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, if you sit there and you think about it, just go by the scripture itself. You know, thou shalt not worship any other graven image other than thy Lord God, for thy Lord God is a jealous God. For a perfect being, a being that is absolutely perfect. Why would a perfect, benevolent being
Sounds like a petulant kid.
suffer from jealousy? Right? Or the idea of Jesus in and of itself, right? And I say itself very specifically and intentionally, so understand that. Jesus itself, the idea and concept of Jesus, okay? The idea that Jesus died for everyone's sins, okay? For everyone's sins, with one condition, that you had to give in to Jesus and give yourself to Christ. And by doing so, your sins would be forgiven. Knowing psychologically that every single human being sins, every cardinal desire that a human being has is considered and listed a sin by the Bible, by the church. Which it only leads to logic, or serves to logic, to think or understand that it is the perfect Ponzi scheme to get people to follow and believe in Jesus and God by sitting there saying, well, you're going to fuck up anyway. So because of your fuck ups, the only way you can avoid hell because of your fuck ups is if you suck this guy's dick.
Oh, hey, what?
What?
What? Who?
Yeah.
I have one question, and then I have to take a quick restroom break. The question is, can you, and God, I can't ask you, because if I ask it, people are going to answer it, and then I want to know the answer, but I won't be here because I have to pee.
Well, then go to the
I'll be
bathroom
right
and come back and ask it.
No excuse. I sort of want to wait till he comes back to say something.
Yeah, I want another patty. These are good.
Did he just say going to the pot? I think he forgot to mute his microphone.
I think so.
Chat, this is how you know it's
Mute him.
live. It's live.
Mute him. Mute him.
Because I'm going to forget to fucking unmute him. He's going to come back and start talking. You know. But, you know, it's just that is my idea. Like, when I sit there and all, like, the idea, like, the whole concept of Jesus, like, dying for everybody's sins is such a beautiful concept. It really is. That this one person that was, you know, the only demigod according to, Christianity, the only demigod to have ever walked the earth, the true Son of God, Jesus Christ, Christ being a title, not a name, much like Satan, came, taught, brought peace and love, and then died on the cross for everyone's sins because he loved humanity so much, despite the fact they treated him like shit, that he was willing to sacrifice his very existence for the sins of everyone else. But the catch, you have to believe, pray, and worship him as a god, or you're going to go to hell. And even if you do go to hell, remember, you're going to be suffering in agony, in pain, in anguish for all of eternity. But God still loves you. I mean, fucking come on.
We're going to tell him this. Mike's. So, Mystic,
Yes.
were you supposed to be muted?
No.
Okay.
Why?
You weren't.
I didn't plan on it.
All right, what's your question?
I forgot.
Oh, for fuck's sake. We waited for you to come back to ask the question.
I am so kidding. I remember the question.
Okay. You're going to make one up off the top of his head.
No. And it may not be able to
Pineapple
be
on pizza?
answerable, but I'm curious as to whether or not anybody who is Christian believes that you can be Christian and not believe that the Bible is the actual word to follow. Because I've heard that.
I
I've
think
heard
so.
people that believe that. And I wondered, and I'm curious as to whether people really feel that that's a possibility. Because to me, that was the biggest turnoff. It was the Bible saying and the things and the interpretations, maybe not the original. I don't know. No, don't read Aramaic or Hebrew or whatever it was written in.
It's a collective thought versus an individual thought, and
Yeah.
it's
To me, the
collectivism.
Bible was
You're not thinking.
men controlling people.
Mhm.
That's what it was. So, is there an alternate? What would be that
Well,
alternate? and
well,
how
so
would
here's
that be
here's the
understood?
thing. So here's the thing. This is my take, right? So when we talk about like those faiths, let's talk about the three primaries, right? So there are three primaries at least right now. Okay, right now there's four, but originally there was three primaries. Okay, so you've got Catholicism being number one, Christianity being number two, and Judaism being number three. So here's the thing. There's a big thing. So let's take the hypothetical and let's say Jesus was an actual person. Don't believe it because there is literally not a single thread of historical evidence outside of the Bible that Jesus ever actually fucking existed. Not one historian, credible historian in the time period, had written anything about someone turning water into wine, walking on water, healing the sick. Not a single one. There was one. But then there was that one person was found out to be a lie and paid off by the church. So, that's a proven fact.
Imagine.
Right? So, not a single historian outside of the Bible, right? And I go with George Carlin on this one. If you find that there are valid points, okay, in the Bible to live your life by, allow me to suggest some other literature that might be just as equally or even more so, like more morally sound, right, to go by. Little Red Riding Hood, the Three Little Pigs, right? Wonderful books with wonderful stories about morality and telling the truth and doing the right thing and being a good person. So if you find, true solace in the Bible, then maybe those other forms of other literature will also, appeal to, what it is that you're looking for. Anyway, so when we look at the three primaries, we look at Christianity, or Catholicism, Christianity, and Judaism. Jesus was a Jew.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus even said, at least from what I've learned, that he wasn't there to start a new religion. He didn't want people to follow him.
Well, that's the thing.
He wasn't looking to become a leader. Essentially, the idea was that Judaism got to the point that they were telling people how they should dress every single day, what color they needed to wear, what food they needed to eat. Like there was a rule literally for every hour of every fucking day in the year. And the whole point of Jesus showing up was to say, hey, guys, you're kind of dropping the ball here. That's not the point. Let me show you what the point is. So, in my personal opinion, if you want to choose the correct path within the three primaries that deal with Jesus, don't be a Christian, because that's the complete opposite of what Jesus wanted. Don't be a Catholic, because Catholicism, when you look into it, it's like fucking Democrats and Republicans. Catholicism started as politics. It was not a religion. God and Jesus and everything else was incorporated into Catholicism much after the fact of its inception. It was politics. They just understood politically and morally speaking, it was significantly easier to control people that were threatened by the idea of an eternal hell than presenting people with the policies that they wanted to do, which just included controlling people into basic slavery. So Catholicism incorporated Jesus and God and all of that shit much after the fact, which is one of the reasons why Catholicism has become like one of the strongholds of monotheism in the planet, because of its political nature, because of the fact it's the only fucking religion in the goddamn planet that has a fucking president and a Congress. Just look at the hierarchy and the structure. You can see them by the size of their fucking hats. The bigger the hat, the more important the guy. So if you want to follow the true path and truly be Christ-like, be a Jew. Stop lying to yourself and pretending that by being a Christian that you're doing something amazing, because you're not. I'm glad, I said it again, I'm glad that whomever out there is Christian, Catholic, whoever, and if you are personally fulfilled with that, then I'm happy for you. I really, truly am. But I'm not going to stop expressing my opinions on the things that I think from the things that I've seen and the things that I've learned. I'm open to conversation. I am open to changing my opinions on new information being presented to me that I was not aware of previously, if it is that somebody can do that. So don't think I'm just being a complete asshole just to be an asshole.
Not completely. Sure.
I'm merely putting out my opinion, what I think based off of the things that I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
If there's new information out there that I haven't taken into consideration, that I haven't seen, then please, by all means, present it. And I'm more than open to changing my opinion. But in 35 years that I've been on this planet, nobody's done that yet. They keep coming at me with the same arguments, and it's kind of boring.
Well,
if you got something new...
Why would anybody care to change your opinion, though? Right?
Well, it's not to force my opinion, but the thing is like I can willingly change my opinion when new information is presented. Like if something new is presented to me that can be proven, that I can see, that I can feel, that I can understand, say, okay, well, I didn't know that, so let me run that around the track a few times and see what happens.
But that's not the point. The point is, why does anybody care about your opinion as far as when it comes to Christianity? And I'm not.
Oh, is it because it's because every Christian wants to save everybody's soul?
That's the point. That's where I was trying to head. Because it's not about you. It's about their ability to change you. And that is the experience that makes for me anyway, Christianity is such a hard sell or a hard thing to be a part of, because the goal is always to make somebody else or convert somebody else or change somebody else or show the way or spread the word. I don't need the word. Don't spread it. It's not syphilis. Don't need it. Don't want it. Keep it to yourself. If it works for you, you should do it. And if it works for you, you should talk about how it works for you. But the goal shouldn't be to do it for other people. Thank you. You know, and I guess that's just part of the pyramid scheme. Pyramid schemes exist and they survive and they thrive because somebody's marketing them and selling them how they how they make it. And I'm not saying that all Christianity is a pyramid scheme. I'm just saying its its survival rate is due to the salesmanship of Christianity. I mean, that's how it exists. That's what keeps it going.
Hmm. No,
And
I mean, I agree. I mean,
there's an additional piece to it too, and that's the idea that when shit goes wrong, when shit goes wrong for me as a pagan, I'm like, oh, I done screwed up. Let me see how I can work to fix this. Right?
well, that was another aspect of things as well. Is like, that I wanted to touch base on with the whole Jesus thing. Like the idea that Jesus died for everybody's sins. Like it doesn't matter what you did. Like it doesn't matter what you've done. Like you could be a murderer, you could be a rapist, you could be a pedophile, you could be
Gay.
any number of things.
You could be gay.
Exactly. At least in the eyes
Same as being
of
a
Christian.
pedophile.
Well, in the eyes of like most, like a good majority of like Catholics and Christians that I know of, it's pretty much the same thing.
Don't ever ask me the difference.
So the thing is like, when you look at those things, where's the personal accountability? Like you could be the most horrible, horrendous of people. You could be a complete monster. And on your deathbed, if you so fully heartfelt accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, you're accepted in the pearly gates. So, I mean, it's salesmanship, man.
It truly is.
Like that's how you sell a product.
But it's more than that. Because like I said just a minute ago, when I fail as a pagan, I fail and I say, what could I have done differently? How can I compete better with myself? How can I stay in my lane but use my blinker? I love that part of that video, by the way. Stay in your lane, but use your blinker to let other people know when you need to get out of your lane. Anyway, digress. I am the one who failed. I need to do something different. I need to reach out and figure a better way, learn a better way, listen better, hear better. As a Christian, the way that I was taught to be a Christian in my first 15 years of formative life before I left it and never looked back, it was things are going really poorly. It's your fault. Things are going great. It's God. God has it. Jesus has it. God's got my back. God's
That's a
going to take care
whole
of it. God's
it's a
going to
whole
do
other
it.
thing. Yeah.
Praise God. I'm not praising God. I need to praise myself, or I need to conjecture myself to create what I need to process or move to. And I think, to be honest, now that I'm saying that out loud, it sounds like that's like the pentultimate underlying theory of left hand path, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not reaching out to God to say it's in God's hands now.
Or any entity for that
No,
matter.
it's not in God's hands. It's in yours. You drive like a freaking idiot and you wreck your car into a tree. That's not God's fault. It's yours.
Mm-hmm.
And if you drive carefully and make it around the corner and you don't die, that's not God saving your life. That's you not being an idiot. And I think that's where to me, that's where I lose Christianity. That mindset is where I lose that thought process of,
Well, there's no accountability,
losing
like good or bad.
Yeah, exactly. And except for, I guess, from what I hear in Catholicism, there may not be any accountability, but there certainly is blame. And everybody knows in the human condition, blame doesn't do shit.
No.
It does nothing. It does nothing. You don't blame. You
it's just this idea that
responsibility
like
and change.
if you look at the state of Rome, like when the Roman Catholic Church was founded, like if you looked at the state of Rome and like the thing that Rome was into, like Rome, like at a particular junction point, had openly accepted, pedophilia. Like it was an open thing. It was like a normal everyday thing. It was like something that happened. And people didn't question it. People knew that it was wrong. They saw the pain that it was causing, but they had openly accepted it. If you look at like the amount of disgusting shit that was happening in Rome around its fall and the rise of the church, it was honestly a right place, right time kind of thing. It really was. Because here comes the church saying, hey, guess what? We got this perfect thing for you. So we know you're a degenerate piece of shit. Like, we know that. We know you're a fucking bottom scum feeding fuck. But guess what? If right before you draw your last breath, you accept us and our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and his Father God, and the Holy Spirit, you will be given access to eternal paradise. Doesn't matter what you've done.
You like my interpretive dance?
And it's like, yeah, your interpretive dance was very good, by the way. So it's like, really, dude? Like, really? Like, and then, like, isn't that like a comment on God as a person, though? Like, if we really think about it, like, if you're to break God down as a person, that he is so fucking petty that he doesn't give a shit what you've done to the rest of his children at all. Like, how many people you have killed, how many lives you've destroyed, how many tears you've caused people to shed, so long as you accept him and his son. You're good to go, man. I mean, come on.
I'm pretty sure what we're talking about right now is humans' influence to adjust how things are interpreted just for control purposes. That's it. So much that I think that we've lost or lost there that was meant to be taught that isn't being taught because it's all about control. Like, no one sees the real meaning and the real lessons being taught at all. There's truth there, definitely. But the same truth I can find other places. That's how I know it's truth. Because the same things come up over and over again from other places.
Yeah, exactly.
And when my thought, just a couple of thoughts of going through my head, is when we say God is within us and we are God, it's because that is, in essence, the universe is in us and we're above. So below, all of that, similar concepts are being taught, but not taught well in Christianity because it's all about control. But the lessons are there. If people can open their eyes and get away from control mechanisms, I think. And that's where people are trapped at that level. There's nothing deep about anything. And we've found it in other places, able to go there. So,
Look, I'm not saying absolutely everything in Christianity, Catholicism, or like any of the major 3 or 4 global religions. I'm not saying that there isn't anything valid to learn from them.
I wasn't
Not
saying
saying, no, I know that's not what you're saying, but I need to kind of iterate this point. There are very valid things that can be learned. 100%. But I believe, 1, the history of the church, 2, the very recent history of the church, like we're talking like the last, 50 years, especially that thing I mentioned in France, like the diocese in the area and the Pope, and they knew about what was happening. They knew it. They knew these things. Now, I understand what people are going to say. Well, they're human, and humans are susceptible to sin. And being susceptible to sin means they're not perfect. It's like, I'm sorry. Isn't the Pope chosen by fucking God? Like, don't people freak out when the Pope starts to get sick? They're like, oh, the world's going to end. The world's going to end because the Pope's 90 fucking years old. He's going to die at some point. Stop freaking out. How many times has the end of the fucking world happened?
I don't know, but I'm sick of that smoke color change thing. What is that even?
What are you talking about?
Nothing. Don't worry about it.
Oh, the fucking, yeah. Yeah, how they choose the fucking Pope.
Freaking, I don't even, never mind. But you see,
but see, that's the thing, Mark. It's not just my life. Like, people, like, when I sit here and I call out the church and I call out God and I call out Jesus, like, people like to put that on me, right? Well, it's a lot of occurrences in your life. No, it's a lot of shit that's just fucking happened.
He's still accurate, though. I mean, that's a true statement. Your internal state is a product of many occurrences in your life. It doesn't, but this is the thing. I mean, that statement alone is the underscore bold italic for paganism and left-hand path and every other path that there is, because your internal state is a product of the occurrences in your life. Your life is a product of how you have experienced it. This goes back to those conversations of whether or not reality even exists. Does the world exist independently of your interpretation of it? I mean, there's no answer to that. You'll have people that say, absolutely, yes, it does, and absolutely, no, it doesn't. But it doesn't matter. Your interpretation of your life is the life that you have experienced and that you have in your realm of things. And that's all that matters, because that's the sole connection that you have to the rest of the world. None of the rest of the shit matters. You have trauma, you have experiences, and you have created and have been created. Rephrase, or repeat. You have created and you have been created. And I think people forget that. You create things as you exist, and you are created in the time frame that you exist, right? That is a true statement. I will argue anybody on that any day.
Well, of course it's a true statement. Right? But the thing is like, it depends on how much you're going to be generalizing it. Like, because the thing is like, if I'm sitting here praising God, like everybody's gonna be like, oh well, yeah, praise God.
Doesn't matter, because it's independent to the individual who is creating or being created. It doesn't matter. We are all going to experience things in a different way. The difference that we do, the three of us, and a lot of the occult community, a lot of the pagan community, the difference is we allow, this is one of my favorite words of my mentor, and it drives me absolutely fucking bonkers, but we allow space for those things that we don't understand or that we don't necessarily experience internally, but we experience through or vicariously through the people around us. Malice, I will never have the experiences you have, ever. But we are forever bonded in the experiences that we have together, in the way that we do things together, and the way that we have conversations, right? So when we go through those things, it changes who we are. We are both created and we create every day, every second, every minute, all the time.
So the point that I'm trying to make, I agree with you. But the point that I'm trying to make is the fact that I can sit here and I can rattle off facts and things that the church has done in the name of God or in secret because they feel that they're untouchable or what have you. And not a single Christian or Catholic person that I am aware of is going to openly hold the church accountable for the things that they've done. It's either that's on me because it's my perspective, or it's because the devil made them do it.
It's neither.
And
Those
what bothers
things
me is
objectively exist.
what bothers me
They objectively exist.
is that
right?
there is no personal accountability. There is no accountability to the church. There's no accountability to the people that perpetrated these crimes. There's no accountability because the church can't be wrong. The largest problem that I've ever and always had when it comes to Christianity, when it comes to Catholicism, when it comes to any sector of that is the lack of accountability, whether positive or negative. Like you said earlier, praising yourself for the work that you've put in week after week to get where it is that you are. No, it wasn't you, Mystic. It was not you. That was not your work.
It was
It was God. It was God.
That
God
is
did
only
that.
our understanding and our frame of reference of that. That doesn't mean that there is not something else we do not know about.
Mm-hmm.
That has to be included in our allowance, or we become the problem. That's all I'm saying. As an organization, fuck it. But as an individual, I have to allow space for things that I do not yet understand or will never understand. Period. Ever. Always. In every situation. I cannot exist comfortably or without anxiety without allowing space for the things that I do not understand. And for the things that I do understand for the best of my ability, they're not part of my life anymore. I'm not Catholic, not Christian. That's why. Because I chose to say they don't have an impact on me anymore. Do they still have an impact on the people around me? Yeah. Do I still need to address them? Yes. But do they have an impact on me? Nah.
Well, it's still a conversation I would like to have. Like in Mark 5, if you're open to like coming on the show at some point and having this conversation, I would be more than willing to debate you.
Dude has to come on side, and it really shouldn't.
I'm
shut up.
happy. Don't get me wrong. For as much as I disagree with you, Mark, I'm very happy that you're here. Like, don't misunderstand me. I'm a very passionate individual, and I'm very much an asshole. I'm very proud of that, but I am very much an asshole.
You are.
Yeah, I am. But it is what it is. But I'm very happy that you're here. I'm very happy that you're still here, and I think it would be interesting to have you on for a conversation. Don't expect much different than what's happening right now, but I still would be interested in having a conversation in real time with you about what it is that you're saying. I highly doubt that anything you're going to say is going to cause me to convert. Like, that's probability of that happening is damn near nil. I'm not going to say zero, but pretty fucking close.
I trust Malice that you have enough in you to allow for the space that what Mark 5 has to contribute can exist. That's all that it takes, right?
Yeah.
I think that would be a great show.
I think it would be good too. I mean, it's nice to have somebody of a different perspective. It's nice to have somebody in the community that isn't a cultist. That is being respectful and not saying that every single one of us are going to burn in fucking hell. So appreciate it.
I like the heat.
Yeah. Well, I mean, don't we all? So like I'm very appreciative of you not coming in here and disrespecting the community and disrespecting the people in here that have different beliefs than yourself. So I appreciate that. I appreciate your willingness to share and express the things and ideas that you have about particular subjects. And your willingness to respond to, all of our ideas, that have been presented this evening. So, thank you for being a part of the community. It's greatly appreciated.
It's been one of the most respectful disagreeing and commenters that I've seen in a while. Honestly.
Yeah, same here.
Because usually it's like, dude, y'all suck. Go to hell. Burn in hell.
And to which, like, most of us are going to answer, yeah, it's your hell, you burn in it.
I honestly, to add in just briefly to that, I honestly never saw anything in this conversation with Mark here that there was a disagreement or an argument. Just a discussion. All I was saying.
Well, I mean, except for me being kind of assholic at certain points, but that's par for the course.
including Malice,
Yeah.
He'll learn that in two more
right?
podcasts, and he'll be fully inducted.
But like for myself, reading what Mark was saying in chat here is I can see what they were saying, and I can attribute it to things I already sort of believe myself, and I can get where the thoughts were going. I want to
So,
say that.
I mean, yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, Mark. I mean, it's just like, I mean, the idea is conversation, right? Like we're all occultists, we're all pagan, most like obviously outside of yourself here. And for you to feel comfortable enough, I do believe, I think it'd be truthful to say that nobody in the community has been disrespectful to you. Nobody has like called you out and, said, what have you about your beliefs. Jesus Christ, to spare space bar, man, space bar. Holy shit.
Dude, I know it's like it's Christian Christmas, but we're not ending anytime soon, are we? Because this conversation is pretty good.
Been going on for a while.
I know.
Yeah, we've been on
But
for
yeah,
two and a half
space bar. We
hours.
got to teach Despair the space bar for sure.
I think we've been talking for about 2 hours. Really, when it comes down to it.
Yeah, definitely.
But
And
yeah,
I think we kind of deviated from the topic.
not really.
No, not really. I mean,
No,
it feeds into it. I think it feeds into it.
it's I still firmly believe that we're talking about with Christianity. We're talking about a couple different things. We're talking about the organization and how they've abused their power, and also there's the loss of path. There's a loss of the
Fair enough.
lessons are being lost. And
Fair enough.
myself personally, my experience, because I never really went to church when I was a kid. I was not baptized, although my mother was a member of a church. She wanted us to be. My father did not. That is my personal experience growing up. But I learned about Christianity. I learned about Jesus. I learned about all these things. And because I didn't go to church every Sunday, I had the opportunity to read and formulate my own ideas on things. So I wasn't bound by being told what to interpret or how to interpret, but to read and to figure things out on my own. So I can see truth, and this is where I come back to saying I can see truth that is being found here in maybe those books and every other place in the world that shares similar concepts. The truth is there, and there's deeper meaning there. There's allegory, teach us stories that teach us things about ourselves, about self-reflection,
Yes,
and that's
Maeve,
where
the truth is out there.
exactly you're all crossy fingered and
I think Mystic got the reference.
maybe
Playing
Have you
the
ever
sound
seen
in
have,
my head.
right, the song, right? Yeah. Have you ever seen the X-Files, Maeve?
No, never.
The- That's why, like, I kind of switched what you said. Just like the truth is out there.
I
Jeez.
mean, seriously though, like, I mean, I get it. Like,
Maeve,
all
I'm
of
sorry.
this.
I'm drunk. Mystic's drunk.
I'm not drunk.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Uh-huh.
I haven't added to my drinking, but I've had alcohol tonight.
Yeah, I'm definitely drunk. There's no question.
Yeah, you should probably have more, Maeve, so you're like right on par with us. Because it's making me feel bad that like you're the only
I'm the voice of
coherent one.
reason.
Yeah, you're the only coherent one in the conversation.
I don't
Here's the-
mind being the coherent one here, right? But
Drink more.
I don't know.
Drink more. That's the method.
I just think deeper and more than
Than a
surface
drunk
level
person?
bullshit.
I think
No, not a drunk person. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just like
that you
I look beyond so many surface level bullshit things that people get stuck on and that everyone gets stuck on. Look at the world today. We all get stuck on the surface level bullshit. Don't go deeper beyond that.
I think yeah, I mean that's 100% true. And to be honest, I think any form of and I don't want to say not Christian, but paganism, left hand path, whatever it is, any form of that. Um, I don't want to say religion either, but I guess that's the best case, right? any form of paganism, left hand pathism, um, forces you to look at your choices. And I think that's one of the main differences because Christianity does not force you to look at your choices. It
I,
forces you to look at who to blame.
I
And
think
that
that's been changed over time. I don't think that was the original purpose, but it was.
maybe, but I know in
But
my experience, like everything has been about what do I need to do differently to be a better person, to be a better
mhm,
steward of the community or whatever it is. And so when I look at it, the only thing that paganism gives to me is, again, like I've said before, is trying to do better today than I did yesterday as a human being,
exactly.
whether it's being kinder, more understanding, or more allowance. It's just that base of allowing things to exist in the way that they do. And I never had that with Christianity. And the only thing that I can personally um, reflect upon my Southern Baptist roots, whatever you call them, is completely different than paganism. My experience with the church is all based on me being gay. Like that's everything for me. So my experience isn't with religion and with Christianity isn't based on being a witch or being pagan. It's based on the fact that I was baptized at a church and kicked out of that church the next day because I'm like, I'm weird,
And
Yeah,
and
that's
I
another
I
that's another thing I fucking
and
can't
it's a
stand. It's a
whole nother
behemoth.
and and
Like,
process.
and in my opinion, honestly, Mystic, is that I don't believe they are following what they're supposed to be learning from what their religion is teaching them at all.
And, and I agree with that. And I think that's what sold me off of the church because I literally was baptized at this church. Like I wanted to be Christian. I wanted to be a part of the church. I loved going there. As a matter of fact, I have some stories to say about our youth pastor, which are not appropriate on TV or YouTube and could potentially cause some criminal charges. So we'll leave that alone for the moment. But in the end, I wanted to be a part of this church. I loved the people that were there. I had a great time.
Mhm.
I came out and within hours was told never to come back. I was That was the end of Christianity for me. Like literally 14 years old, I left and I went and hung out with a friend of mine, contemplated trigger warning, some things that aren't appropriate. That probably could have ended everything that I had believed in at that time. And she introduced me to Wicca at 14. And that's where I started realizing that there's something else out there. There's this whole other path of acceptance. And so Christianity for me was unacceptance. Everything else was acceptance. And to me,
Mhm.
like, what God would have created me this way? Because I freaking hated myself. Like, I was so despising of my own person that I wanted to just end it and be done because I was not what God created. I was an abomination. I was this horrible
But
mass of cancerous cells of things that didn't and shouldn't exist.
but that doesn't
And
make
that's
sense to
what
me. Like that whole thinking doesn't make sense because if we were all created by God in His image, her image, whatever the case is, you were created as you are.
at
Therefore, you're
40,
created in His image.
at 40 that makes sense. At 15 it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. But
Yeah.
but
And
but there's nothing wrong with how you were created because you were created as all were. Nothing wrong with it's the people, humans, deciding that beyond that. I don't know.
no, you're
One of my
right.
thoughts. That's one of my thoughts there on that.
Let's boil all of everything down. Catholicism, Christianity. paganism, all of it. You boil it down, it is made up of the people that support it or are a part of it.
Those who
And I'll,
benefit from it.
yeah, that's how it works. And I'll be honest, in the pagan communities I've been in, there are some fucking assholes.
Was ever-
There, it's not just Christians. It is across
No,
the
that's the
board. So
thing.
that means human beings can
Like
pretty much
I
suck.
think we've talked about some of those people on this podcast or peripheral.
Hmm.
Um, but people can abuse their power or perceived power. It is there everywhere, and I don't like it. But what can you do? Try to
All right. So one thing I want to mention, because neither you fuckers let me fucking interrupt you.
Nobody lets anybody
Ooh,
interrupt them, dude.
love ya.
Interruption is interruption by definition.
See, I have to wait to interrupt you because you just don't stop. So this is the
Ditto.
table's turn, man.
Maeve, you and I, we're on the same wavelength here.
Yeah, exactly.
And now he says nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Go suck a big deck.
So while he's typing, my thought here, just as far as the whole God is us, and you know how the concept of God is all forgiving. Here's the thing: if we are God, God is within us, and God is forgiving us, what we're really being taught, or at least I think should be taught, how this house should be spun, is forgive ourselves for things that we've done. Forgive ourselves for our missteps, learn from them, and be better the next day.
But
And
I
that
think
is the message that's being lost.
so. Here's the
Self
thing. So
individualism.
I think reading into it like that is reading way too fucking far into it. Like, I mean,
No.
it's
Oh, I
a
think.
beautifully eloquent, like, you know, concept and idea to kind of like try to read into it like more, like so much that like, oh yeah, well, this is what we need to do because God forgives us, so we need to forgive ourselves. It's like, put it simply. First and foremost, I don't believe in God. I don't. I truly don't. I don't believe in God, which makes it extremely difficult to be kind of like, you know, like the idea of a Satanist that most people believe in, like, you know, to believe in like Satan as an entity, because to believe in Satan means I have to believe in God, and I don't believe in God. So there's that. Two, if God is real,
Hold on.
if
Can I
God
ask
is
a
real,
question first?
oh no, you can't. Hold on a second.
I do. I have to. I have to.
What?
Because
What?
I don't understand.
Okay, what?
Define God. Like, are you talking about the Christian God? Something
Christian God.
else?
The Christian God.
Okay.
So,
So I wasn't necessarily talking about.
you know,
Yeah.
so like, you know, for me, like, if God is real, like, which would be a fucking horrendous fucking thing if he was, he's either incompetent, a piece of shit, or just doesn't fucking care. Like that is my rundown. If the Judeo-Christian God is real, that is how I feel about God. He's either incompetent, a piece of shit, or just doesn't give a shit. And then there was something that I wanted to go on that Behemoth said that really fucking hit fucking hard with me. Really fucking hit hard with me. Forgive your abuser. Now, might I add that what he said at the beginning of this, I hate that. Forgive your abuser. Yeah, no, fuck that. And here's the thing, like Christianity definitely fucking teaches that shit. Like to be able to forgive, you know, the person that has harmed you, that has hurt. No. I want to take a rock and bash his fucking skull in. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, but I mean, seriously, that's kind of a weak argument, though, because yes, you do. Everybody does, always do. The, the idea of forgiveness is so fucking stupid. It makes no sense to me. But when you look at it, to me personally, pagan process would be allowance, right? I always go back to allowance because you're not going to create that negative space for that person. How much control can they have over you? So, is the definition of forgiveness letting it go so that you can move on because you're not going to change what has already happened to you? And you're not going to necessarily always going to have the opportunity to get revenge. And is revenge even healthy? Who cares? Whatever. Move on, right? So,
Don't blame yourself for being in
define,
that situation.
yeah, don't blame yourself, but define what
Look,
it means. Define forgiveness. I mean,
well, here's the
that's
thing.
really what we're
Here's
talking about.
define forgiveness. We know what forgiveness is. I mean,
I mean,
like
we know what the
not
definition is
everything,
on the freaking
not everything,
dictionary.
but not everything needs to be defined in a different way than what it actually means. It
It
means
does
what
if
it
you want to get
means.
over it. No,
Like it
that's
means
not.
what.
That's 100% untrue because we are fucking human beings.
Yeah,
You
we
can
are.
define shit. Don't say define shit. We can define a window. It opens the window. That doesn't mean that's what it means to you every time. You can't blame or work on forgiveness as a process. Doesn't work that way. Forgiveness is for you, not the other person. Always. The difference is, who do you place the responsibility on? Do you need revenge to get back what you need? Because it doesn't always work out for you, right?
See, that's the thing. So you, to a point, I agree with you. Now I'm going to explain my point. It's something that I've always said. So there's a difference between wanting to do something, knowing that you are capable of doing something, and then actually doing it. So for me, when we talk about, for example, being peaceful, right? We want to talk about definitions, and let's talk about definitions. And that all of this ties into what we're talking about. So if we think about being peaceful, many people will sit there and confuse the concept or the idea of being peaceful with being someone that is harmless. They would say, well, he wouldn't even hurt a fly.
Or complacent.
And so the thing is like, that's not peaceful. That's being harmless. Being harmless does not make you peaceful. It makes you incapable. Peaceful is a choice. Knowing that you're capable of great cruelty, but choosing not to be cruel. That is being peaceful. Knowing that you're capable of causing a war, but you don't cause the war. You choose and prefer to go the route which is calmer and is peaceful. That is how you become peaceful. True power is the power and control over oneself. Knowing that I am capable of doing something, I am capable of great violence. I know that I am capable of great violence, but I make the choice not to commit great violence. That is power. Why is that power? Because I have power over myself. I have power over my own actions. I have power over the things that I choose and choose not to do. That is where true power comes in, because I cannot control anyone else. To sit there and claim that power is having power over other people, you can never truly have power over other people. Power and control is given, not taken, whether through means of fear or other extravagant means. But that's not power. That's cruelty. But understanding what you're capable of and what your abilities are, and then making the conscious decision to do the opposite or do that which is the correct thing to do, that is your power. That is being peaceful. So when it comes to forgiving, to a degree, yes, to forgive is for yourself. But there are certain things that, for me personally, are unforgivable, that have happened to me, that I cannot forgive.
That to me is something that you need to work on because you have not let it go yet. I have not worked through that process yet. Because it's always going to hold you back. You're always going to hang on to it. You're always going to have it in the back of your mind. There are a million, 10 million more people that have gone through something similar or worse than what any of us have ever experienced. I'm not talking about anything specific,
Mhm.
generalizing. Nobody at this moment knows. The three of us on this call right now, do I know what Malice is going through right now? Do I know what Maeve is dealing with in his personal life? Do I know how Maeve handles stress in his personal life or how it affects him? Do I know what Malice's personal issues are doing in his life and how they affect him personally? No, I don't. What I do know is that I have the ability, and I have honed the ability to allow space to exist. Empty space right here beside me, this little bucket, empty bucket that allows for things to fall into it. And it has a limit, 5 gallons. I can take 3 gallons of pressure. And in that space, I allow for things that are around me to exist in there without me having to think about them or judge them or push them or decide how they are going to end up. And so when we think about all of the things that happen in our life that are stressors, we think about them in terms of how we deal with them, not how somebody else deals with them.
Mm-hmm.
All three of us could have the same, exact same emergency and respond to them differently. Who's right? What is correct? Doesn't matter. What matters is the three of us on this call be available and say, hey, dude, tell me what that shit was. Talk it through,
Mm-hmm.
work it out.
Exactly.
The key to all of these things to me is, and this is, it's, I'm not, when I talk about this, I feel like I don't know. It's just, it feels uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable to talk about this, but in my personal life, the things that I'm currently dealing with in my brain are more than most people I think can deal with effectively. But I don't talk about them. And it's not that I'm not talking about them because I need help or I need therapy or whatever. It's because I have learned to manage them through the people around me, right? And I manage that through putting up a fish tank or cleaning the floor or whatever it is that I do to reduce stress and blah, 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 whatever. But I always have to create a space. And it's I don't know what else to call it, but it's my allowance bucket. And it's that bucket where things fit into that I have enough energy to support. I'm not going to lift it if I can't lift it. I'm not going to raise it if I can't raise it. I'm not going to drop it if I can't drop it. It's this bucket and it exists and it's by itself. And I created it because I care about other people. Other people may see it as a different um, method of how everything is going. But what I fail to do is to recognize that this bucket also holds in what I'm worried about and what's going on in my life. And when that bucket fills up too much, it starts overflowing. What do I do with it? I share that bucket. I pour that bucket out to my friends and I allow them to come into my life and to support the things that I want to do and to lift up on those things that I need to address.
Right. Hey,
But what
busted.
happens? Huh?
Love you, man.
What? Love you too. What happens when that bucket is empty? What all of the things that we are talking about. Malice for you, it's the abuse from the Catholic Church.
Mm-hmm.
That is your thing. That's what's going on. Maeve, I don't know yours yet. We haven't really, I think, chatted enough to know, but we all have it. We all know what's in our bucket. And what is it? What makes us feel good about living in life? And for me, what makes me feel good is being able to share what's in my bucket. But lately, I've been sharing an empty bucket. I have nothing left to give to others. And so when I don't have that, what do I feel? I feel selfish. I can't help you. I can't help you. Can't help you because my bucket's empty. There's nothing in it to give.
When you
This is
give and all
this
you
is
do is give, it's
eh,
hard
your bucket's empty. This is an
for
actual theory
itself.
of psychology, by the way. That's where I'm headed.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we talk about Christianity, we talk about paganism, and we talk about our experiences, we tend to talk about them from our own perspective. And what we forget to do is create the bucket that allows other things to exist without judgment and without description and just be. And that is what gets me through I, I have an incredibly, and I don't think anybody truly understands how incredibly stressful my job is. It is so stressful that it is stressful. I mean, just it's stressful. Being responsible for the care of 10,000 patients, right? It's stressful. But I put that stress in a bucket. And what holds that bucket up is the people that are around me, right? And we talk about all those things that are going to hold up that bucket. And we're going to give out and we're going to support everybody that's around us and we're going to listen and we're going to allow for those things to exist. What does that have to do with what Christianity stole from everything, right? We can sit here and talk about the what Christians have done to us. I mean, I'm a good example of that from being a Southern Baptist, which is, by the way, the worst denomination to be if you're gay. It really is. I mean, there's no worse one to be. Like maybe Mormon, I don't know. But if you look at all that and you just you erase all that and bring it all together, what is it? What is all this? What are we trying to do? Things like just supporting and creating that space for things to exist. So when we disagree, when we have things that we want to work on or things that we want to feel, we have to create a space for it first before we judge it. And I think that's really where I'm kind of thinking about the whole Christian, you think about Easter, right?
Hmm.
Death and resurrection. Yeah, that's Christian. Yeah, no, that's pagan. Yeah. Yule, we have this Yuletide thing that the Christmas tree, the Yule tree, the Yule fire, that's Christian. Yeah, yeah, that's
Pagan.
pagan, actually. That's pretty pagan. The celebration of Beltane is pretty pagan.
Maple
Th-
as well, I think.
Yeah, maypole as
All
well.
these things, right? And what we do is we talk about what Christianity stole from paganism, but what we don't talk about is steal it or not steal
Mm.
it. It's still a celebration. Let's just bring the two together. Let's start. And this is what's happening. And this is why I bring it up. And I know it's a very long story to get to the end point, but the end point is things are changing.
They
There's
are.
a ton more witches, a ton more people recognizing that it matters that Yule or the winter solstice is the shortest day of the year. Why does it matter? Because it has an effect on us as human beings. And as we start to recognize and realize those things, tying it all the way Christianity, no offense to those that are considered Christians, you guys are actually losing now. Because we're starting to realize that there is so much more important things than to listen to what was written in a book by a bunch of men who wanted to control everything that we do, right? And
Amen.
that's the full circle. It took me 20 minutes to get there, but I got there.
It's a good circle.
But that's
And
the
I
point.
think
Just
on the
do it.
note of that circle, Mystic is right. Like, and this is kind of like, so like I do constantly kind of talk about kind of like occult unification, but I wouldn't have a problem if other people wanted to unify under that umbrella that don't necessarily consider themselves occultists, but rather people that do believe in live and let live. The biggest pet peeve I've always had with Christianity and Catholicism and everything like that is that the obsession to sit there and tell me that I am wrong because you believe that you are right. You cannot, nor can I, verify that what you are telling me is unequivocally the truth outside of what you feel inside of yourself. It is absolutely impossible for you to sit there and give me verifiable evidence that what it is that you are saying or what it is that you believe is 100% unequivocally true. Because if you were capable of doing that, you wouldn't be talking to me. there would be significantly more important people that you probably should be talking to, and they would probably be very interested in speaking with you. But this is the idea of faith. Faith comes from within, not from without. We measure it with results, but it comes from within us. And a lot of what Mystic is saying is 100% correct. Christians and Catholics, you're losing numbers. People are starting to see the bullshit that's surrounding everything. Not necessarily to sit there and say that people don't believe in God, but they're becoming significantly less religious and significantly more spiritual. And you can still be Christian and Catholic and still be spiritual. Spirituality is not, a one-sided coin that it only applies to people in the occult or people that practice magic. You believe in the Holy Spirit. Therefore, you believe in spirit and the idea of spirituality. To sit there and try to define it as something that is sinful is just frivolous. But bringing people together and having a conversation has always been the idea, because the tenets of the Order of Baphomet, for those that don't know, I founded the Order of Baphomet, and the three primary tenets, is learn, teach, and silence, which is not solely towards the Order of Baphomet, but I think that within the Order of Baphomet, it should be a focus. Learn as much as you can from everyone you can. Teach those who are willing to be taught that you believe that you can teach. And when you can't do either of those, be silent and watch for the opportunities to learn or the opportunities to teach. Learn, teach, silence. So, I think that this evening's conversation is probably one of the better and best conversations I think we've had on the show. I have greatly enjoyed this, but it is time to end the show. So, on that note, thank you all for being here. Greatly appreciate your presence, all of you, single one of you. Thank you for being here for the Malice Experience. I am, of course, Mr. Malice. Kind of words.
Mystic Salon, Two Pondering Pagans. If you're really confused, that's us. I mean, final thoughts. Ultimately, we have our generalizations about how we feel because of the experiences that we have, I guess. My experiences, interestingly, are not based upon being pagan. They're something completely different on the whole Christianity thing, and that's where I am. And whether that's right or wrong doesn't matter, because that's where I am as an individual, and that's where I'm going to be as an individual. If I need to work through it, I'm going to work through it in my own way. And that's really what I think. When I look back on being pagan, it's truly why I am still comfortable calling myself pagan, because that is the pathway that has given me the ability to self introspect and consider my life and be accepted. It's the only place I've ever felt accepted. I mean, even in the church that I go to, it's the pagan group where I fit in. It's the understanding, the comfort, the joy, the idea that, hey, we believe this way. You think completely differently. You're weird. You might be an alien. I don't know. You're crazy. Who knows? But we love you. Come in. Let's sit at the campfire and, beat on the drums. Those things are what makes me feel whole. And I think Christianity could never come close to telling me that that's how I can live a comfortable life. And it's proven itself that way in multiple different places. So that's just my personal opinion. You may have a
Hmm.
different experience, and that's great. But here's where I am, and that's where you are. And I am perfectly fine being here, and you're perfectly fine being there. And
Yep,
that is where we end that relationship.
sounds about right. Maeve, final thoughts.
Just to add on what Mystic just said there, because I still think there's a difference between when we look at Christianity as an organization versus people who might be following that faith. there's collectivism versus individualism. So thinking for yourself versus not thinking for yourself. And that's more or less where my thoughts were going right there. Individually, I think people, um, if they get outside of that collective thought, can make an informed decision and start disseminating things to what might actually be the truth or a truth for them, rather than someone else's truth being enforced upon them. And that is what we're trying to do. We're trying to find a path which works for us. What I've been trying to do for the whole of my life. So I don't really ascribe to one particular path. It's sort of a combination of many things. And it would take a very long time for me to try to expand upon that and explain that, especially in the closing few minutes of it.
Well, we might be able to touch base on that in the next one.
Maybe.
But all right, once again, everyone, thank you for being here. Again, this has been the Malice Experience. Happy holidays. I hope you all are enjoying yourselves, and we will see you next year. So
Next year.
Yay, next
guys
year.
later. Last show of the year.
2022.
Exactly. So it would be 2020
Part 2.
version 2.0. All right, we'll see you guys later. Bye.